It is Thursday evening, East Lansing, Michigan. Come on in, gather around, gather around, gather around. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. I'm going to talk Michigan State football, maybe a little bit of basketball, and we'll be digging down into it. Michigan State 3-1 coming off that loss, 45-31 in Los Angeles at USC. Sunday morning, late Saturday night, we'll be talking about that. Michigan State, the roster, the depth chart, what's good, what needs to be fixed, what's next, what has a good chance to be fixed, and what are going to be lingering issues. We'll be talking about some of those things and also some of the good performances that Michigan State can build on going into the big game at Lincoln, Nebraska, a week from Saturday. It's a bye week, and for me that means I'll step away from the press box a little bit, but a lot of big games nationally going on, so a lot of college football to be watched. A lot of college football fans going to be enjoying that. Michigan State fans will be enjoying that as well. But what we're going to be enjoying right now is Big Moob is back. Ron Armstrong's on the line with us. We'll be talking Michigan State football. Unable to connect with him last week, but we've got him this week, and we're excited about it. Ron Armstrong, how you doing, Ron? You doing good?
Hey, doing well, man. Glad to be back. Glad to be on. Talk some ball.
You were looking forward to a bye week?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to a bye week. Get a chance to watch some other games, some stress-free football, watch those games, and get caught up with some stuff around the house. I'm sure the missus has a pretty long list for me to do.
Ooh.
And, just kind of enjoy the weekend.
That sounds great. You and I spoke earlier this week, so usually in the broadcast talk show industry, people like ourselves that are co-hosting a show like this, we're not supposed to talk until we go on the air. You and I have already talked for about an hour about Michigan State football and everything this week, so I'm not sure what we already covered. That's not the way it's done, but hey, I'm barely a professional, but I couldn't help it. I needed to catch up with you and see what you thought about the game. I will say this, I really enjoyed my time out in Los Angeles. I wasn't necessarily looking forward to it. Had never been to the Coliseum for a game, had been in it when it was empty before. And, just getting all the work done last week, it's a sprint to get it done, and then you travel on Friday, and then you're in an airport, and then you kind of, for me anyway, speaking for myself, I kind of forget, oh gosh, I'm going to California today. Like as I'm driving to Metro Airport on Friday, and get there at like 5 in the afternoon, and then I realize, well, there was a magger, I won't mention his name here, but we were going to go out to eat, but he was a little under the weather, and he was flying out to Australia the next day, and he couldn't really come out. And he said that we were close to Manhattan Beach where I was. I stayed at the airport, at the hotel at the airport. I didn't get too extravagant about getting downtown or anything, but the airport is like 4 miles from Manhattan Beach. So I'm like, geez, it's 5 o'clock. I'm like, shoot, I'll just take an Uber down to the beach and hung out. Next thing I know, my feet are in the Pacific Ocean. And honestly,
gotta love that.
Like that morning when I left to East Lansing to drive to Metro Airport, I wasn't thinking Pacific Ocean at all. I'm like, get down there, get some work done, whatever. The beach is beautiful. Really interesting community there. Really ritzy. So it's my understanding my friend Jim Harbaugh lives right there. My Uber driver said that he had seen Harbaugh drive by on his bicycle in full San Diego Chargers gear, riding a bike. I didn't know if he had cleats and a whistle on, but Kendrick Lamar lives around there, Richard Jefferson, a few others. It's nice.
Sure.
Had a great dinner down there. So I was able to enjoy that. And what I was doing that night, Ron, I wanted to stay up late. Got a nice place and a good restaurant, watched the end of the Iowa game, watched Kershaw's game, his last home game at Dodger Stadium. Something else was on. Got in some good conversations, had a couple refreshments. Left there pretty late. Got home, and I went over to the State Champs Facebook channel, which they show high school football games in the state of Michigan. And I stayed up till 3 a.m. Pacific time watching high school football. Rob Rubik and those guys, they kind of go, they bounce around and show. They have live feeds here and there. Some of them with broadcasters, some are just press box feeds. But yeah, I got a chance to watch Catholic Central against Orchard Lake St. Mary's, a few of those other games, Dexter against Saline. There's like 5 or 6 games that were on. So I'm trying to stay up as late as I can because I knew the next day I was gonna be working until 5, 6, 7, 8 in the morning, which I did Eastern time, and that coverage is over at SpartanMag.com. Had a good time. LA Coliseum was great. I underrated it, underestimated it. I knew it was a great classic stadium, but it moved me even more than I expected. It was great. The USC band was great. The fans were great. The press box people were great. The food trucks outside the stadium were great. Tailgating is not great there, but there's good. There's some good, there's some bad with being in a city location. But loved the Coliseum, loved it. Classic college football stadium, classic football sounds and colors with the USC. The colors of their uniform and the band, it gets on some people's nerves, but I thought they were great. So anyway, it was a good experience. Michigan State fans that we've heard from on the Underground Bunker message board had a good experience out there. The fans were respectful from USC. So that's from the periphery, the concentric circles of fandom. That's my report from LA Coliseum. Overall, thumbs up, and I thought the team showed some guts too. Ron, any thoughts that you have on any of those things before we get into the team or as we get into the team?
Look, you pretty much hit on the head. I mean, look, USC, it's if you've never been there and you haven't experienced the Coliseum and hearing the band and fight on and all that stuff, it's neat. I mean, it's what you said. It's college football, kind of the epitome of college football and the environment. Although it's in a city setting, it still doesn't really feel like that when you're at the Coliseum and you're watching USC. So I can totally see that it would be enjoyable. Haven't been there a few times myself. It's a neat experience,
And there's different flavors of college football.
And they've done a lot of work to the Coliseum. They've done a lot of work to get it, where it's looking pretty good and things like that. So, but yeah, that's a tough trip, man. Like you're trying to get yourself ready to pull an all-nighter, on a one-day notice. That's tough.
Which I can usually do with no problem, but I'm a night person. I'm more productive at night. But I was thrown off because my flight was, I don't know, like noon or something like that, which meant, getting up at like 8 or 9 here, which isn't that early for anybody, but it is early if you're going to be working till 8 a.m. on Saturday night, Sunday morning. Sure. So that threw me off. Normally I'd be okay. Game ends at 2:30 in the morning, press conference till 3. Me and Konadike doing VCast till 4:30 a.m. No problem. I got that. And then Uber back to the hotel, then start work at 5 a.m. writing stuff. And I didn't get everything written that I wanted to. And then I look at the clock. I'm like, man, I got to be on another flight here in about 6 hours. So I went to bed and I was going to write something else and didn't get around to it, but we'll get to those things here. I mean, it's just, that's the life of a sports writer. Sometimes you don't get everything written that you want to write, but there's a lot of things in my head that I want to talk about. And even more now that I've watched the game again. Go ahead.
And say that and all that went into your travel and getting acclimated with the time. And imagine trying to play a football game. So when folks say, other kids, the time won't matter, man, it matters.
I saw Lincoln.
No matter what, it matters.
I saw Lincoln Riley. I saw Lincoln Riley complaining a little bit this week about, last week we played the latest game in the country. This week we're playing the earliest game in the country because they have to play 9 a.m. their body clocks at Illinois this weekend. So he's complaining about it a little bit. He's 4-0. He's got a good team. He says, obviously, we don't do the scheduling. So to your point, it does have an impact on players. It does have an impact on play. And like I said last week, some players it might affect 2%, some players it might affect 14%, but it's going to affect all of them at least a little bit. And when you extrapolate that little bit across 40 players in your playing group, it has an impact. And that's something I need to remember when I look back at this game and some of the mistakes that were made by Michigan State players. I need to take that into account. I never played defense at a high level. You did. And it's been explained to me that it's kind of like everybody's played Tetris, I think, like high-speed Tetris. So playing Tetris, try playing Tetris, fast Tetris, while running on a treadmill while somebody's hitting you with sandbags in your knees and your head. And then you mess up. Well, you mess up on 3rd and 5. They get a first down. It's a scoring drive. It could cost you the game. So I don't know what that's like. But
let's just take it like this. You said, some guys will affect 2%. Some guys it might affect 15%. So if you say, it's going to affect each guy, but there's 70 snaps in a game. Mm-hmm. So if it affects you 15% of 70 snaps, how many bad plays could that potentially be? So it just doesn't matter. Those 3 or 4 snaps oftentimes are the difference in the game. And you good there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And having, we lost the game by 2 scores. How many plays is that? I don't know, but it definitely played a part, in that's why the NFL, they keep track of that, those East-West games, guys. You know, the West Coast teams traveling and whatnot. You know, and NBA, they call them scheduled losses. So, yeah, it matters. But let's talk about the on-play on the field, actually, though. Let's let's dig into that. Because I watched the film. I've actually probably watched the games in its entirety a couple of times now. And, yeah, it's just, you know, progress is hard, man. It's hard. It's hard on fans. It's hard on everybody. And there were so many plays where we were in the right call. Defensively, we were in the right call, and one guy might have been in the wrong gap, or, you know, his contain was a little too skinny, and it got outside of him. I mean, I could go through the play and just point out this guy's in the wrong gap. The guy or miss a line. It was just so many little things that, like, 10 guys were doing the right thing. One guy would be off a little bit, and it would leak there. Just, you know, those things. Kind of like whack-a-mole, like, you know what I mean? So, but at the same time, when you and I talked last week, I said we could win the game 35-31. And I thought there was a path to us winning that game. The one thing that, you know, that kind of struck me is just I didn't see coming is how well they were able to run the football between the tackles. I didn't see that coming. You know, I didn't see that coming. They hadn't shown that at all.
Same.
You know, and we hadn't really given that up all year. But, you know, that kind of surprised me. I think that probably took us by surprise, too.
And I wonder, you know, how much of that Tetris gets affected by those things. You and I talked about some people catching, and I can expand on that a little bit. I saw the same thing. USC with their run game, bringing those counters, you know, backside right guard, right tackle to the play side on those counters. Something you don't see very often. It's an old school play. USC did it in the first 3 games. They did a lot of it in this game. I asked Quindarius Dunnigan about it last week, and he said, we'll have a plan for that. You know, he can't really reveal what their game plan is. I didn't really get a chance to ask Rossi about it before the game. Rossi didn't do interviews last week. He only does it maybe every 3 weeks. It's not his decision. That's just the way it's rotated at Michigan State. It was different. You know, Michigan State likes to be under center, and they run their zone scheme, and Jonathan Smith says one of the reasons they like to do things is they like to be a little bit different, throw a little knuckleball. Not his words, my word. Throw a knuckleball, be different, and there's some positives in that. As good as USC is with NFL receivers and an excellent quarterback, then they bring that counter at you, which you don't see a lot. You can work on it all week in practice, but Michigan State's ability to really meet that at the point of attack, stack it up, they had trouble with that. They did better in the third quarter when they made their comeback, and as Michigan State became more and more focused on it, then they hit you with speed option to the weak side, you know, for quarterback keeper or pitch, easy touchdowns. They were doing a great job spreading, you know, just changing it up on Michigan State. Lincoln Riley, you know, became an $11 million per year coach from his days at Oklahoma, was hired at Oklahoma because Stoops really liked him. He's an excellent offensive coach, and they've not really shown it at USC in his first 3 years there, but they're showing it this year. He's got good balance of talent, and the way they diversify their attack, it is a handful. And that doesn't excuse giving up 355 yards in the first half or 45 points overall. I was kind of expecting 41-21 type of game. Michigan State maybe in some ways did better on offense in some regards. Mekhi Frazier was more available and more of an impact than I thought he'd be, and he's a big reason why they were able to score 31 points. But before we move on in a minute, first of all, USC's offense. When I look at it, they're the number 1 ranked offense in the country. Now, they played some weaker teams. I think Georgia Southern is like the worst defense in the country, and they played them. They played Purdue, they played Michigan State. Michigan State's had its struggles on defense. We'll get to that in a moment. But USC's offense, I'm like, there's no question they're really good. But I'm wondering if this offense is elite. And when I think elite, I think like Ohio State in 2014 with Barrett and Ezekiel Elliott and all those monsters they had. Or the Oregon team that Michigan State played out there in Oregon that had Mariota and, you know, all kinds of speed at receiver. And they were running up tempo and people were still getting acclimated to that. And there have been some teams Michigan State's played in recent years that have had elite offenses. I'm wondering if USC is indeed elite/great on offense. Is this an offense that's going to be top 5 in total offense all season? Is this a team that's capable of scoring 40 against Michigan, 40 against Notre Dame? I'm curious to see that. I don't know the answer right now. I'm not closing the door on that possibility. So part of what I'm doing is I'm grading Michigan State and how they played against this offense at 2 a.m. Just how good is USC? Your thoughts on USC's offense?
You know, there is no question that they have elite talent, especially at the skill spot. It just shows up. You know, that flashes on film. There's no question they have elite talent. What I would like to see before I say they're an elite offense is what can they do when things are taken away from them. Can they still be efficient? Can they still score points? Can they still, operate at a high level when you can take something away? When they play teams that have really good corners that can play man, or they play against a team that's, has NFL D tackles, or a team that has great pass rushers. What happens when they're stressed? Because you and I talked about it. They found ways to lose games last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought 31-24, if we got any point 31-24, I don't know how sure those guys would have been that they're going to win that game, just based on, all things that went wrong last year with that team. So I need to see USC do it against like talent. If you lined up, I don't know, the first 70 guys, and you had them run sprints and do, physical stuff, I think USC would have, when they played us, they would have had a lion's share of better athletes. So I need to see them do that when they're playing against, like talent, like athletes across the board, before I call them elite. Elite offense. I think they have elite talent. I just don't know if that talent will show up when they're playing against similar competition. That said, there's some guys out there that certainly flash. I mean, Lemon that guy's a handful.
Mm-hmm.
Just his, when you see guys that they change directions without slowing down or changing speeds, it's kind of tough to defend that. It's kind of tough to defend that. That's just a sports car out there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That they just got a different gear, different whole operating system than everybody else. So yeah, they have some guys that make it really tough for you to defend. But having said all that, maybe I would say from my watching the game, and look, sometimes talent does this to you. But I thought a lot of those plays they made was a mistake on our part that made that play possible. That's not to say the guy's in the right gap, he makes the tackle, but it's a lot easier to run through a gap that's unoccupied.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the jury's still out on them. Now they look better than they have in a few years with Lincoln Riley, and I think he knows he finally has the horses to run the offense the way he wants to. Because they throw a lot at you. I mean, they throw some really neat wrinkles, man. Like that you don't see all the time. Some of them are NFL concepts. Some of them are 1980s concepts. Like they throw a lot of wrinkles at you that you got to prepare for, and you might only see it one time all year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they'll sprinkle in speed option. In the red zones, you have to work on option. That counter, not everybody's running.
Just when
they'll run they must have run that counter 15 times.
Right.
At least 10.
And then just when you're dialed in on that quarterback will pull. They'll slip the quarterback out the back door. Like they just do a lot of things, man. But even still, we got a turnover, got the ball 31-24. Like that's why I'm looking at this game. I'm like, man, there's a lot of things that went against us. But those kids were in the game in the fourth quarter. Late. It's 2:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that game looks like with a 3:30 kick at Spartan Stadium. I imagine it looks similar. Just because at some point talent's going to take over. But man, I didn't leave that. I didn't leave watching that film feeling like, man, we're just never going to be good enough. I looked at that. Remember we talked, and I said, are you good enough? Or are you talented enough? Remember we talked about that?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's a little bit of both. I don't think we quite have enough talent across the board. I don't think we're good enough in our as far as good enough. I mean, like doing all the right things right, like doing all the things right. Like, are we lining up right? Are we in the right checks? We're not quite good enough there, but I can see progress being made. We just got to stop. Get consistent before we can be good. And I think that's got to be the the message. Like we got to do everything right before we can be good. And we're not on defense. We're not doing enough things right now to stop. I mean, they're gonna make plays. They got guys on scholarship too. A lot of those guys are recruited by everybody, so they're gonna make plays. Let's not go out there and help them.
Yeah, and there are mistakes out there, and I just I draw back on my frame of reference covering Saban, D'Antonio, and other regimes that have come through here. And in year 2, it almost never looked completely oiled up and tightened up. Never, right? I mean, D'Antonio and Saban, they went to bowl games in year 1, year 2, 500, different schedule. Big Ten was weaker back then, not as deep, not as strong in the middle or the bottom. And you're talking about D'Antonio and Saban, 2 Hall of Famers, right? Michigan State's 4 games in to year 2. I remember, was it 2 games into year 4 with Saban when they were blown out at Oregon 48-14. That was the game, unfortunately, when Amp Campbell suffered a broken neck. He came back from that and had a real productive 1999. But I remember the first, I've mentioned this before, the late great columnist of the Detroit Free Press, Drew Sharp, was there, and his opening line of his column on Sunday morning after the Michigan State's loss to Oregon was, Nick Saban's honeymoon is over. That's year 4. You wait 4 years to even talk about honeymoons. Now,
Right.
Michigan State fans on the Underground Bunker message board over at SpartanMag.com and Michigan State fans everywhere are like, well, how come we're not as good as Indiana? What Indiana is doing is historic. No one in the history of college football has gone from what they are to what they might be a playoff team again this year, top 10 team in 1 year. That's amazing. Before I go any further, I didn't mention that SpartanMag.com, hey, give us a like here on the channel. Subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate that. And we'd love to invite you to go over to SpartanMag.com and test drive Spartan Mag. If you're not already a Magger, Maggers are the people that are subscribers at SpartanMag.com. $1, you can try it for a week. And if you're still listening and into this Michigan State talk, you will love SpartanMag.com. Over at the Underground Bunker message board, it's a message board. And Ron Big Moobie Armstrong's there. I'm there. Paul Konendijk. Jason Killip, our recruiting anchor, Kenny Jordan, Jake Laskawa, cast of thousands talking Michigan State sports all the time. Check it out. You will like it. SpartanMag.com. We'd love to have you over there. So there's Michigan State fans that are wringing their hands. Why are we not as good as Indiana? There's a lot of teams around the country not as good as Indiana, and it's a new construct with the transfer portal and NIL. So it's easier to be good quickly. But I'm not sure Michigan State ever set out. Cignetti did it that way, and he brought 14 guys from James Madison, including NFL pass rusher, NFL wide receiver, maybe an NFL linebacker. Already had a good offensive line that he inherited. Got the best quarterback out of the MAC last year as a senior. This year, got arguably the best quarterback in the portal, an NFL quarterback, Mendoza from California. They've done a really great job. Smith, I don't think, is a quick fix type of guy. Didn't set out to have a quick fix. It's certainly not a quick fix. So when he was building it, he wasn't doing it. He'd love to be great in year 1 or year 2. Different set of cards. Credit to Indiana. Like I said all summer, I thought they'd be good this year, and then we'll see what they look like in the future. Cignetti's had a lot of good years, so it's a good chance he's going to continue to be pretty good down there. But if you compare yourself to Indiana and if you're wringing your hands and you're talking hot seat, there's 120 teams in Division I? There's about 105 right now that would fire their coach because they're not as good as Indiana. Do you want 105 coaches getting fired across the country? That's kind of unrealistic. It's a credit to Indiana. Like I said, what they're doing is historic. And I'll mention one other thing about hiring Cignetti. I was on the Stout Show this week, and we didn't get into it, but they marvel about Cignetti. And he did just turn 64 in June. To his credit, and also to Indiana's credit, Cignetti, with the success he had at James Madison, obviously contacted his agent and threw his hat into the ring in terms of looking to expand and coach somewhere else. I'm wondering how many programs across the country would have hired, how many Power 4 programs would have hired 62, turning 63-year-old Curt Cignetti last year. Michigan State, that's a little bit too much of a risk for them. He might have ended up being a great hire, but he falls to Indiana because Indiana's been bad for 100 years. What do they have to lose? If it doesn't work out, they'll hire another coach in 3 years. Nobody cares. It's no big deal. When you don't have much to lose, you can take a shot like that, and they did, and it's hit for them. It might not be great long-term. Credit to him. He's a great coach. The fans deserve it. They're having a good time down there. But the Indiana thing, if you compare yourself to Indiana for too long, there's a lot of programs across the country that'll drive themselves nuts looking at that whole thing. Your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, listen, I don't think Indiana believed that Curt Cignetti was going to be this good. They just wanted a new football coach, and he was good at James Madison. Obviously knows the game, but I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams thought that this was going to be the result. So using that as a basis to chase after anything is kind of foolish. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to go 5 for 5 every day. So like, don't chase that. Mm-hmm. So to think that anybody can kind of duplicate that. I mean, let's just call it what it is. We saw what happens when you strike lightning in the bottom of the portal. We had that happen here. Mm-hmm. So don't necessarily know that that this is something they can continue every year. I know he's a good football coach, but when you're filling your roster through the portal, you got to be right every year. And I don't know how well they're building, with high school kids and whatnot. So I don't know how long that can continue. I just know that, like, yeah, you can strike lightning in the bottle with the portal, but can you do that every year? And is that something that's sustainable? That every year you're going to find the right guys out of the portal? I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can continue that. I mean, it's too, to me. I don't know if that's something that's sustainable. But right now they're flying high, and credit to Indiana, credit to Signetti for getting those guys ready to play. But as far as Michigan State trying to duplicate that, I think the lesson here is, if you have a coach opening for head coach, find the best coach you can find. Not the best coach under 60, not the best coach from the East, the best coach that you can find that fits what you're trying to do and you think can win where you're at. Because I think there's too many like qualifiers or disqualifiers nowadays for, we need a young innovative, we need this guy. Find the best coach that fits your university, what kind of program you guys want to be, and hire that guy. And I think Indiana kind of got lucky in that respect that you're right. They didn't have people, tell them they had to have a young guy or, a guy that, ran the spread or upset, whatever the case may be. They didn't have that. They just said, find the best football coach we can find that wants to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be,
When you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. Bob Dylan once said. Indiana had nothing to lose. Right. And Signetti came after them. They said, let's go with this guy. We got nothing to lose. Right. Boom. It's worked, right? So, hey, great for them. Great for them.
Yeah, good on them.
All right, so you're talking about let's go back to the turning point of the game on Sunday morning, 2:30 in the morning Eastern time. Michigan State had fought back to make it 31-24, and they've got USC 3rd and 3 at USC's 29-yard line. Michigan State calls a blitz, a good call, like you said. Grady Kelly comes in, and I mentioned this in the VCast after the game. I only watched it once or twice, but I'm sure you've seen it a few times since then. I've watched it 3 or 4 or 5 times since then. Kelly comes in. And what I said in the VCast after the game is he came in a little too far inside and allowed the quarterback to get out on a scramble for a keeper. And they convert it and go on and score and go up by 14 and control the rest of the game. What I didn't realize is that Kelly was aiming to go outside and got pulled inside. I didn't really notice this till last night when I was watching it. He was held, and that's how the quarterback got out. And Kelly kind of throws up his arms at that point. I didn't notice that when it happened. I didn't notice it when we talked about it at the VCast after the game. I didn't know it until Wednesday night. The Grady Kelly got held on that game. And I don't want to be like complaining about the field is too crowned and all of that garbage, but I don't want to have blamed. I mentioned I didn't blame Grady for that because he's out there. It's 2:30 in the morning. He's played 60 snaps or whatever, and I'm up at the press box, eating a donut. And I'm like, he did it wrong. No, that's stupid on my behalf to say that. So I want to come back and say, no, Grady got held on that play, and he got held to the inside. That's how the quarterback got out. And Grady did a good job on that play. And if the officials had done a good job on that play, they would have thrown a flag. That play would have come back, and it would have been 3rd and 13 at their own 19-yard line. And way
I saw a couple holds in that play. It was a couple. Listen, and folks who say, well, they can call hold in their play. That's true. But when there's a hold that impacts the play, that's usually called.
Turning point of the game. Turning point of the game.
Yeah, you can't eat the flag on that one. I mean, and it wasn't like a subtle hold either. That was that was an obvious hold that impacts the play.
And I hate to.
I was sitting there watching.
Go ahead.
I was sitting there watching that play, and you said something earlier, and it reminded me of that too. When I was watching the play, it reminded me of something. You asked if this USC offense was as good as that Oregon 2014 offense.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That play reminded me of that Mariota play in 2014 at Oregon.
Which one? Was there one?
Mariota escapes the ball out, and
yeah.
they end up getting the first down.
Yeah.
I think if we get him on the ground, we win that game.
Yeah. Okay.
And I felt the same. Like they were. I'm telling you, it just felt like that team was on the ropes, man. They were. Some of those doubts of last year was creeping in that team's head, man. Especially if it's a sack. You get a sack, you get the guy on the ground, and all of a sudden we get the ball back. Good field position, offense. We got a shot there.
Really?
Again, I thought you're right. That was a clear hold. It was a couple of them on the play that I'm like, you got to make that call, man. Like, come on. Like, what are you looking at that you didn't see that?
I can't criticize them that much because I didn't see it live the first time or the second time, and I'm reluctant to.
Yeah, but you're not assigned. You're not the official assigned to look at holding.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's really what the ball snap. You're looking at the offensive line. Did they hold? What's that guy watching? He's watching it. He's watching the game, not the actual assignment. I don't know, but and again, like you said, I don't want to be the guy that the field was too crowned and at pink locker rooms or whatever. No, but it was a critical point, a critical play, a critical point in the game that an obvious call was missed. So you got to address it.
Yes, and I don't like to criticize officiating too much because in our sports culture, there's too much of that. You go to the high school games, JV games, and all the fans show up and they automatically think the officials are the enemy of both teams, and that's wrong. And the end result is we as a society are having trouble getting officials to be referees for high school football games, high school basketball games, high school baseball games. So those of you that are officials, keep doing what you're doing. You do a good job. I'm just pointing out that one got away.
You'll never hear. Listen, I know a lot about sports and such. But you'll never hear me try to pretend that I could be an official.
Right.
That is just not my wheelhouse. Those dudes so yeah. I'm not over here trying to supplant my tell the officials how to do their job. That's outside. As my wife says, that's outside my ministry.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to, when I used to coach travel baseball up to 16U and JV and assistant coach at varsity and stuff, or JV, go to the home plate for, flip of the coin or whatever if you're the home team for a travel game or your home team for a high school game. And I would tell the officials, the umpire, thanks for coming out. We wouldn't be able to play without you. And some of the umpires in travel are a little more casual, and they hey, let's have a good time. I'm like, hey, I said, hey, I'm going to make mistakes. My player's going to make mistakes. We're just going to, it's no big deal. And I tell my players, if it's a call that goes against us, it's like a bad hop. Just play it. Play the next one. But I've never been in a game where I thought that official is out to get us. He's trying to do the best he can. He's out here because he likes baseball, trying to earn a couple bucks. And respect him as a man or a woman, respect him or her. And, if it's a bad call, it's not personal. He's not out to get us, But this one they missed. And a couple plays later, 3rd and 6 at the 9-yard line. And actually, there was the 4th down play prior to that.
Yeah.
4th and 3, 11 minutes to go in the game. And, Michigan State gets off the field on an incompletion, good coverage. And actually, it was 3rd and 6 at the 9-yard line. Incomplete. 8 minutes to go in the game, and Ade Willie is flagged for face mask away from the ball. He's in press coverage, outside technique, gets his hand up high, and gets the face mask accidentally. The officials didn't miss that one. Did not miss that one. It's away from the play. Has nothing to do with the play. It's accidental. Still a flag. They found that one. They didn't see the other one. They found this one. If they don't call that flag, it's 4th and 6. They kick a field goal. Maybe they make the field goal. They're up by 10. Maybe they go ahead and win the game anyway. But as it turns out, they score a touchdown a play or two later. But that face mask, first of all, I'm still getting to know these coaches and how they do things. But I was surprised to see outside technique on that. I didn't see a safety over there. Again, that's outside my ministry as well. But I'm surprised he used an outside technique. Then the hand gets up high. And Ade Willie's had a pretty good season. On that one, that was an unforced error. Did not get beat physically. Did not get beat mentally, I wouldn't say either. Just an unfortunate play. Michigan State's probably going to lose the game anyway, but that 3rd and 6 face mask call, that one was a killer.
And again, like when you're, and also when your margin for error is so slim, that's it's 3rd and 6. That's almost a turnover. You know what I mean? Like, you got an opportunity to talk to people, the first set of downs, and they ultimately get a touchdown. But again, like I said, you got a small margin of error. Those little things, an incidental face mask, missed call here, misalignment there. Those add up to a 14-point loss on the road. To a really good team that didn't need help.
Did not need help.
It's all about, man. Just it's hard to see progress in the moment. You know what I mean? It's like, when you're trying to get in shape, trying to get healthier, you don't see it, and you see somebody I hadn't seen you in a while, like, hey, you look great, you slimming down. It's hard to see progress in the moment. And I'm a fan just like everybody else. I'm watching games. I'm losing my mind over every single play call. Coaches don't know what they're doing. I'm a fan just like everybody else. But if you could take a step back and watch the film, there's a lot of good stuff happening. I'll tell you what, I got to say this. Our quarterback's playing his tail off.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing well, man. Like, his improvement is, week to week, just his improvement. You can see the game slowing down for him in his processing. So that's definitely something to kind of just take note of, that quarterback is really improving. Taking care of the football, getting us in and out of the right place, taking ownership of that offense. And then on the defensive side of the ball, let me ask you this question. How does that game turn out if we have Jordan Hall all game? Like, we played without our guys communicating the defense. Like, I don't know. Again, there was a whole lot of things in that game that were stacked against us.
Mm-hmm.
So, from my standpoint, I was actually, and folks say there's no moral victories. I'm not on the team. I can have a moral victory feeling about this game.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like with all things considered, it wasn't a bad showing.
No.
Now, we have a week to clean up the stuff we can clean up. Then you got to go to Lincoln, and that presents a whole different set of challenges. And I think that environment is going to be a lot tougher than any environment that our kids have most of them ever experienced. Like, you better be ready, because it's going to be 90,000 see your red, and they're going to be ready to go.
It'll be loud. They'll be on you. And Aiden Chiles in this game, 12 out of 21, 212 yards, 38 yards in gains, and then 7 and 1 sack loss, a net of 31 yards, continuing to show that this is important to him. He has heart. Mm-hmm. He's trying to win as a team. He's not out there, he doesn't think this is a show for him. So, and that's not something you can teach somebody. That's the way he is. And that's a credit to him.
Sure.
A lot of natural ability. We all know that. And he's working hard to refine that. And the coaches are working with him, and he's become a plus player at the quarterback position. He's a hassle.
Absolutely.
And he's doing it with, and he did it in this game. I don't know if he admitted it or not, but I mentioned in the pre-snap read going in, and it was obvious throughout that Michigan State did not want to get in 3rd and long against those pass rushers. Michigan State's pass protection has been shaky all year, whether it be the running back position or Stanton Ramil getting injured and Rustin Young coming in and doing a decent job. But pass protection on 3rd and 8 was never going to be there in this game. And Chiles still had it on his shoulders to try to carry the team. And he did a lot of that to help them get there. And what I liked about that first touchdown, Michigan State's opening drive when they hit Krishan McCray on that I don't know if they call it a dash. I saw it in an Oregon State. There was an X's and O's book that was out a couple years ago, and they have certain kinds of new plays in football, pro and college, and they had an Oregon State play in there, and it was like a dash. It's not really a sprint out or a roll out. It's like a delayed sprint out. They call it a dash. I don't know if these guys call it. I don't know if Lindgren and Smith call it a dash. But I'll ask them someday what they call it. But I call it a dash because that's what it was in this X's and O's dissertation that I saw. Anyway, they completed this one to Isaiah Johnson last year, 3 or 4 times in the season. And on this one, Krishan McCray ends up becoming open on, just a deep square out is what it ends up becoming. And I think Marsh takes the top off the defense. It's a cliche, but this is a perfect example of it. Wide open, opening drive. Aiden Chiles back in Southern California playing in front of some extended family and friends that have never seen him play in college. And he's on the money. Last year, he might overthrow that by 10 yards, just on adrenaline and excitement.
Yeah, last year, somebody in the front row might have been in danger of being hit with a football.
Yeah.
He could have been so cranked up. Could have been so cranked up, had an open receiver, and he was just uncorked a Dave Rigetti, boom.
Yeah.
That fastball over center field fence, sort of deal.
Yes.
But again, just that you see the growth. And I think one of the things that I'm noticing with him is he's throwing the ball and make the receivers responsible for catching it. Don't try to make it perfect throw, because then the responsibility is on you. Put a ball in the area where your receiver can catch it, and he's got to go get it. And I think he's learning that. Before, he was just trying to make everything perfect. You put the ball, make it catchable, and then now that guy's responsible for it. So I think again, you're right on the money with that. When the kid delivered a strike, touchdown, So you just build on that. I don't think he's. I saw a stat where it said that he had a certain amount of balls that should have been picked off. They did a wrong throw.
This year?
A lot of times, last year.
Okay.
Oftentimes we only remember the bad plays when the bad plays completed. We don't remember the ball that hit the corner in the chest and he dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought if you go back last year, we had a lot of those throws that were like,
mm-hmm.
And they weren't quite turnovers, but you're like, hey, you can't make that throw. I've not seen a ton of those this year.
No.
That there was a couple where I think one a couple up in BC, he went deep where he had the first down of either just taking the free money there, but I've not seen a lot of those hero throws. You know
mm-hmm.
what I mean? And that's maturity, that's growth, and that's only going to get better. I think he's starting to take over this team in the sense that they feed off of him, and that's good to see. We need it especially on that offensive side. Defensively, I mean, we got some loose screws we got to tighten up, but
mm-hmm.
I think having Jordan Hall out there would definitely help. With communication and getting guys lined up right. I thought some of those backup linebackers got put in
mm-hmm.
some positions they probably just aren't ready for. You get thrown to the Wolves, and it's USC, and it's all these 5- and 4-star kids. You probably just aren't ready.
Mm-hmm. And Chiles, there's a play either last week or the week before. I mentioned it here on SpartanMag Live. A play that I really liked, which is intermediate throw, I think, to Rodney Bullard getting his foot down along the right sideline, cover 2 hole, and Chiles looking to the short flat and pumping to the flat in order to bring that squatting corner up toward the line of scrimmage to open up that cover 2 hole a little wider, and right on time throwing it. And it was good coverage back there, the safety over there, throwing it high to where he could get it and get a foot down. Difficult catch, difficult toe down, but the rest of it opened that window to make the whole thing possible. And him manipulating coverages like that wouldn't have happened last year, I don't think. So he isn't. When Nebraska gets ready to play Michigan State, they'll talk about it. They'll say this quarterback is excellent, and we got to keep him contained.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on the wanted poster. He's the guy that they're going to have to stop. He's a problem for every opponent, and he was for USC.
For sure.
Now go ahead.
Now, something you and I talked about before, going out there playing USC, you see that kind of talent, that kind of speed. Now our kids know what it looks like.
Yeah.
They know we know what top end speed is. We know what 5-star talent. So our attention to detail, our focus, this is one of those coaching weeks where it should be really easy to get the kids' attention. Like, hey man, this is why we do what we do. This is why you have to be right here. This is why, because if you're not, these guys can make you pay. You might not have noticed that there was a touchdown against Youngstown. It might have just been a 9-yard gain against Youngstown. Because these guys are playing the fight song. Mm-hmm. That's why we have to be resourceful. So attention to detail, focus all week. That's got to be something that I don't think any of our defensive coaches had a difficult time hammering home. I just got to take that from the practice field into the game day. Just cut down on some of those mistakes and give yourself a chance to win the game.
Mm-hmm. USC will teach you a lesson. Coaches always talk about having your eyes in the right place and all those things. And against USC, if you drop a little too deep on 4th down play, it'll bite you. Getting back to that turning point play, 3rd and 3 scramble, and then the face mask on 3rd and 6. Prior to that, the run defense was improving. It was bad all game. But how did they get into 4th and 3 there? How did they get into 3rd and 6? The run defense was starting to had solidified a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we start getting into people a little bit more, and I mean, we just some of those creases again. That to me, that more speaks to just guys being misaligned or in the wrong gap. Because we weren't getting blown off the ball or just getting moved out of the way. A lot of times, those guys are just running through wide open lanes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in the right spot, you're probably going to make the play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what started to happen in the second half. We didn't really make any wholesale changes. Guys were just in the right spot.
And on this drive, Michigan, for USC to get into those 3rd down, 4th down situations, Michigan State played better against the run. First play of the drive, P and 10 as they call it. It's 31-24. Michigan State has momentum. First play of the drive. In this game, USC first plays of drives, had chunk plays, like first play almost every time, getting a chunk play. Not on this one. They ran power to the boundary. Van Sumeren penetrated, disengaged, set the edge. He made the tackle, no gain. Van Sumeren had a good game. He didn't get pushed around at all in this game. A little bit later on, 2nd and 6, before that 3rd and 3, they ran that heavy counter, guard and tackle pulling to the field. Marcellus Pulliam, who has struggled in space because of speed limitations, on this play took on the pulling guard, hit him, shed that block, made the tackle, held it to a gain of 3. But that was a play that Michigan State had trouble with the entire game. But on that particular occasion, he did a good job stopping that. And on 3rd and 3, prior to the 4th and 3 play, ran that counter to the field. Kakai Burnett playing meaningful snaps for the first time in his career, redshirt freshman from Honolulu. Takes on the pull guard, spills it, and Pulliam made the tackle on that one. You have Pulliam and Burnett on the field after their teammates had given up 250 yards rushing on the day. Michigan State's down 7, rallying, and they turn 2nd and 6 into 3rd and 3 into 4th and 3. And it was Burnett, it was Pulliam, and then earlier it was Van Sumeren. So those guys, they talk about conditioning and strength conditioning and tenacity and those type of things. Those guys are showing up, and those are guys that are trying to get on the field more and show they can do it. Not Van Sumeren. He's just always wired up. And
he's having a good year. I'm glad you mentioned him. He's having a good year. He's coming.
Yeah,
he's coming. He's holding up. 91's holding up out there. He's having a good year.
Right now, we can. I've got some questions here, and I can go into some long diatribes on some of these things, but I don't want to bore you with many of these things. Trying to decide, there was, in terms of key plays and pass defense, and I'll talk about run defense a little bit later, but pass defense, the 4th and 3 play on this drive where they go up by 14, Michigan State brings 5 on a blitz, play cover 3 behind it, which is a defense that everybody has. It's not Michigan State's base necessarily. It's something Narduzzi did all the time. If he blitzed, he'd blitz 5 and go cover 3 behind it, and opponents knew they could throw along the sideline and that'd be open. Sometimes you could tighten it up a little bit. Sometimes you could tighten it up and go 2/3 where one guy's got lock and the other two are playing 2/3 of a cover 3. Different ways to do it. But on this play, Joshua Eaton, who I think has had a pretty good season, and you didn't see him getting picked on for all these yards that USC's putting up. They're not picking on him. But on this play, 4th and 3, they're running out route, and Josh Eaton is in cover 3 and sinks pretty deep down the sideline. On 4th and 3, about 8 minutes to go in the game, pivotal moment in the game. Actually 11 minutes to go in the game, and just gives up too much space. And I'm not sure about, I'm sure they're not teaching on 4th and 3 if we're going to cover 3 to sink that deep. Good player having a good season, and I know that Michigan State first and foremost wants to prevent big plays, but on 4th and 3 in a 1 touchdown game with 11 minutes to go, needs to be tighter than that. And Eaton, after the game, after that play, you could see that he was kind of like, a little bit not happy with himself on that play. I think he knew it. Again, it's 2:45 a.m. at that point. Again, that might not hurt you as much against Youngstown State or Austin Peay. But Joshua Eaton, who did a good job last year at Texas State, won the job this year. That 4th and 3, he knows he can do better than that on that play, I'm guessing.
I think sometimes as a defensive back, I think you have to make a decision that you're going to make a player take a penalty. And that would have been one of those situations where I wouldn't have minded if Josh Eaton had that sort of thought process. That I'm going to squat and I'm going to jump this, and if they're running double move, it's going to tackle the guy. Because barely, they're going to get a first down anyway. So either I'm going to jump this or squeeze this route, and I'm going to make a play, or I'm holding. But I'm not going to bail out of here and just hand it to him. I think it's 4th down. If you bail, they're going to get the first down anyway. I'm not going to give up a touchdown by, jumping, squatting, and running a double move on you. So if I squat on this and he's still running, I'm tackling him. So at some point at DBs, you gotta make a decision. Like the penalty and the first down is kind of the same thing here. So let's go try to make a play. And I would have liked Josh Eaton to kind of throttle down on that and then jump that and try to make a play for us. And you talked about, he said, after that play, he realized that he kind of know what you're doing. And like I said, in that play right there, I would have liked to, for Josh Eaton to decide, you know what, if I'm covering the sticks. If that guy's going deep on me, I'm going to tackle him, and we're going to get in the huddle, and it'll be first down anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. 4th and 3, cover 3, most important play of the game up to that point. And when Jonathan Smith after a game says, we got to be tighter on our coverage, it's things like that. Now, game 4 of year 2 of a program with a first-year player, I've got to take that into consideration. I mean, it's different if you have Trey Waynes out there or R.J. Williamson at safety, who spent a year redshirting, spent a year on the scout team, then spent a year second string getting into the playing group on special teams, and then starts as a redshirt junior. That guy's going to know your system, your calls, and how things are done a lot better than Josh Eaton, even though he's an upperclassman, he's a first-year player and all those things. That being said, in today's NIL world and transfer portal, there's a lot of teams out there with first-year players that are getting it done. What I don't know right now is who's playing good defense nationally that has more than like 1 or 2 or 3 first-year transfers on their defense. There's probably a lot of them out there that are doing it. I've not researched it enough last year when Indiana was doing what they did, I really took a deep dive into their starting group and all of them, where they came from, how Indiana put it together. You know that Iowa plays good defense. They've got a lot of holdovers. I don't want to compare everybody to Ohio State and Oregon necessarily with their embarrassment of riches, but who out there on a Michigan State budget is playing really good defense? I don't know those answers. I'll be looking into that, but that corner making that mistake right there, that one hurt. And there's other ones like, you and I talked about this. I sent you this video yesterday, 3rd and 10. This is a key play of the game. It's 10-7. Michigan State's losing, 3.5 minutes left in the first half. If Michigan State gets off the field, it might be 10-7 at halftime. Or Michigan State gets the ball at the end of the half. They might go and tie it up or take the lead 14-10 and get the ball back to start the second half. 3rd and 10,
exactly.
10-7 game, 3:30 left in the first half. 3rd and 10 at USC's own 12-yard line. Got them backed up. And this was the key play of the first half, I thought. Michigan State rushes 5-man rush, including Ade Willie. He joins the rush. It's a cover 4 zone, and the linebackers are dropping and kind of pattern matching. And USC's 2-by-2. Darius Snow takes on the inside receiver over here, matches that pattern, plays man-to-man, and it's cover 4 behind it. The other one, because it's a symmetrical formation, it's cover 4, and you got 2 leftover linebackers. It's all symmetrical. So I'm guessing the Wayne Matthews on the other side had the same assignment that Snow had over here, but they didn't play it the same. And I think the routes were somewhat similar. Snow pattern matches and covers Lemon, as a matter of fact. And Snow can't run with Lemon, but he covers him, and he's not open. And Matthews is dropping on, I think, Jaden Richardson, the other wide receiver. And Matthews, he doesn't play him the same way. He just kind of drifts and allows separation. And like you said, falls off a cliff, gets too deep. And they completed to Richardson for a gain of about 11 or 12. First down, they go ahead and score, and it becomes 24-10 at halftime. It's 3rd and 10, 3.5 minutes to go in their own 11-yard line, and you have 2 linebackers not playing it the same. And Matthews, and I hope he's all right. He had the injury late in the game, and he's indicated on social media he's fine. I'm very happy for him and his family. But just talking in terms of football, that can't be the way they want that covered in terms of pass defense, I don't think.
Yeah, and I watched that play a couple of times, and it looked like, just on one end, Snow's hugging the hip, and it looks like he's sure that nothing crosses his face, and it's an outside breaking route, so he hugs the hip. That play's covered. Matthews, on the other hand, he expands out to the hash, and he throttles down how he's supposed to, but then he drifts upfield another 7-8 yards and loses all depth and all perception of where the receiver is. And the receiver just runs underneath him. He's wide open. And, so that's just, again. But I remember a coach telling me this a long time ago. It's kind of funny. I never really thought about it to just this moment. And he said, for whatever reason, the field feels bigger on game day than it does on practice day, on the practices. And guys just lose their depth perception. He's like, the field, I don't know, guys just feel like they got to do something. So you get to the depth where he's supposed to be. Now he feels like he's supposed to do more. He just keeps drifting. And all he needed to do was just throttle down and, use his eyes. That keep his eyes on 2 where it started. He had his eyes on 2. Ball snap. Get his eyes right to 2. Carries him to the hash and then turns, makes his own turn. And he drifts upfield. Like, if you just throttle down right there, I don't think there's a throwing lane. Especially if he stays outside him, because the safety was inside. So he didn't need to get inside of the receiver. Basically, now there's two guys inside and the receiver's outside of him, and he's wide open. So just small things, add up over a course of 70, 80 snaps. Those little things add up. Missed penalty, missed call, accidental face mask, misalignment, guys drifting too far. Just those little things. That's how you lose games. Because if you think about this, like, I don't think we had any just like some of those plays like Lemon on the deep over route, man. That's just the racehorse, man. Like. I would have liked to see maybe it's not bracket the tight end, backside on that. So you got somebody dropping, somebody hinging on that. I thought maybe the safety didn't need to bracket the tight end. He could have stayed on the hash. I don't know, but I don't know what the call was. It looked like the tight end got bracketed by the safety in the corner. So that left, pretty much left Martinez in a trail technique and a guy running an over route that can run, that can run. But other than that, man, like, I didn't see a ton of, just blown coverage. It's all like incremental mistakes. Like, Matthews, you're kind of where you're supposed to be. Let's get better. Don't drift upfield. Throttle down and get your eyes where they're supposed to be. Things like that. So you can clean those things up. But to your point, critical play. How many of those do we have? We've talked about 3 or 4 plays. If we get off the field, those. They end up getting points in those plays we talked about. The Ade Willie face snap. The fish sack. These all resulted in points for USC. So, again, credit to them. They play, but man, some of that stuff we really did help.
And ends up being 24-10 at halftime. The 40-yarder that you mentioned made it 17-7. 40-yarder to Lemon getting matched up with Martinez. And I mentioned in the pre-snap read, I thought Lemon would be matched up with Ade Willie a lot. And Ade Willie's having a good season, but USC's best player, one of the best receivers in the Big Ten, he plays in the slot. He's not an outside X. He's in the slot. So you have to make a decision. Do we put our best corner in the slot, or do we just play it base like we normally do? And on that one, he got out there on Martinez. And you mentioned that the other Michigan State was in 2 deep safeties, and Spencer was the other one, and he came up to bracket the tight end, like you said. We don't know what the call is. Should he have been, getting deeper on that one? We're complaining. I'm complaining about Eaton going too deep on the 4th and 3. This one, I'm saying that Spencer shouldn't have been deep. But secondly, on that one where Matthews drifted too much, credit to the quarterback for finding the receiver. That's part of what makes USC really good. He's got a lot of weapons, and he found them. Secondly, Michigan State brought a 5-man rush and didn't heat him up. That's a lingering problem with a lack of pass rush. And Michigan State's pass rush isn't terrible. They're around him a little bit. They get some hurries here and there, but you're bringing 5 on 3rd and 10 at the 11-yard line. You're hoping that other quarterback doesn't have time to find the one mistake that you made. A lot of times you make a mistake, but
that's one I think one of the bigger problems we have right now is when you bring, normally if you're going to blitz, you expect the ball to come out quickly. But we're bringing pressure, and the guy still has time to, for these long developing plays. And you don't practice that. If all week, all camp, every time you're practicing, they're like, we're bringing pressure, that ball's coming out. So DBs, linebackers, they're expecting the ball to come out. And it's not. They got plenty of time to run these long developing routes. So I don't know what to do there. I don't know if if your blitzes aren't getting home, they're probably gonna complete the pass just because you're not prepared for these guys to be out, taking 3 or 4 seconds to get the ball out of their hands. All the time you're conditioned that it's a blitz, it's going to be a hot route, the ball's coming out of his hands, and that's not what's happening. These guys are having time to scan the field. So I don't know if we got to get more creative in our blitz schemes, or if our DBs got to just be more aggressive. But this is the old DB coach in me. I don't mind penalties. Like, if our guys are aggressive, and I don't think the way I look at it is this: I don't think we're good enough to play catch coverage. I'm not picking on our team. Right now we don't have the talent that try to play football between the 30s or whatever we're doing. They're still scoring 40 points a game. I'm saying be aggressive, pick your spots, be aggressive, and let's go play. Because I think sometimes our DBs are so worried about giving up the big play that we don't really do anything. We're just kind of out there. You know what I'm saying? So I think you got to pick a lot in life, man. And if I'm those guys, I'm picking the aggressive side, and I'm saying, hey, man, we're giving up 40 points a game playing catch coverage. Let's get after people. That's just my opinion of that.
And it was and Michigan State went to a 3-corner package a couple of times with Anthony Pinnace on the field. Basically, as the nickelback as a corner on Lemon, and they ran that orbit motion swing pass to him on 4th and 2, I think it was. And it's just really hard to stop that when they're clearing out man to man to that side. It becomes an eraser relay, and they tried some different things like that. The other time that they had that out there with Pinnace as a 3rd corner, USC checked to a run play and gained about 20 yards. That's Indiana. Or that's USC with a good quarterback, good system, good talent.
I mean, you got to pick your poison.
Yeah.
You got to pick your poison. But you got to take something away, man. Those guys are too good to try to be like. They're too good. To me, they're too skilled to try to like match them play call for play call and formation for formation. I think you just got to go out there and say, hey, listen, they're not running the football on us, or they're not throwing. You got to take something away. And maybe you don't commit to it the entire game because then you're easy. But man, you got to make a decision. It might be series for series. Like, hey, this series we're stopping the run. For this series, we're going to defend the pass. Something you got to take something away because Lincoln Riley with a full complement of players, they're gonna draw up stuff that's gonna work. I mean, he's just that good. And now that he has the horses, they're gonna draw up some plays that work. However, you got to understand this: that plays don't get you beat, yards don't get you beat, points do. So, if you could find a way, and really quickly before I gotta jump. At 20, we always talk about the 21 team and K9 and all that. That defense was terrible. But you know what they were good at?
What?
Opportune turnovers. They forced turnovers at opportune moments. And you could be a bad defense in terms of giving up yards, but man, if you're forcing turnovers, you're getting your guys an extra possession. How many points is that worth for your offense?
And Michigan State they won the turnover battle in this game 1-0, and that's a big reason they were in it.
Right.
Credit to Chiles. Credit to Chiles for not making the mistake, taking a sack here and there, tuck and run.
I would like to see us, be a little bit more aggressive on defense, try to force some turnovers because we're not generating enough pass rush playing base defense. And if teams are able to run the football inside on us, I think you got to just kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit and just start trying to get after people and see where that lands because the slow death is still death. You know what I mean?
Alicia Moa on a pass rush batted a pass, but USC caught it. Remember that one? That was during that. I think it was during that same drive with the 4th and 3 conversion. One other thing in that 40-yarder, with Lemon getting onto Martinez immediately at a full rate of speed, one of the fastest receivers in the Big Ten, probably the country, without having Malik Spencer when Spencer's coming up to bracket it. Again, I don't know how they're coaching it, but, with Lemon getting off the line of scrimmage, runs past, I think it was Samaj Bridgman, began that drive in the slot area. And I don't know how they coach it, but I know how D'Antonio and Barnett used to coach it. They would want to reroute on that thing. Slow that guy down a little bit. You can't have an illegal chuck or whatever they used to call it, but you can't let Lemon just get up to drag race speed and get on that. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. You could in college football, there's no 5-yard rule. As long as the ball's not in the air, there's no you can hit guys.
Yeah.
So you absolutely got to make that guy feel you. You can't give that guy. It can't be the 4x1 relay out there. It absolutely you got to put balls on him. So especially a fast guy in the slot, like if you're a safety in a too high look and you got a fast guy running an overroute on you, you have no shot.
He needs Bridgman.
No shot.
He needs Bridgman to reroute him.
As soon as he crosses your face, you're in trail technique, and that guy can run. You have no shot.
And you got no safety help over here because he's up here bracketing the tight end. So
right. So I mean, they drain the backside with that bracket, and then you run over behind it. I mean, unless that guy trips and falls, I mean, you just really have. I mean, unless you're a 10, 100 meter guy or something like that, you have no shot. It's tough. So. Again, not seeing that over route. I mean, and it's funny because I can remember games where that's happened to us. That play is so hard to defend that usually you have the cornerback side will hinge, or the safety will stay high because again, as soon as that corner crosses that inside receiver crosses the safety's face and using trail technique, he has no shot. It's just a track meet at that point. So You know,
And Michigan State, after Jordan Hall was lost for the targeting and Wayne Matthews was injured, Michigan State began the second half, I think, with Moa and Bridgman at linebacker and Snow. And the first play of the second half, USC comes with that counter. They force Michigan State to go 3 and out. USC runs that counter, which had been such a problem. They run it at Bridgman. I think it might have been the first time Bridgman defended it the whole game. Bridgman only played maybe 5 snaps. That one, the one got out for 40 yards. This one gets out for 40 yards. USC's first offensive play of the second half. And Bridgman kind of loses contain and just kind of cuts it too thin, and the running back gets outside. You know, you talked about wrong gap and seeing the right thing. And coaches talk about do your job, don't try to do someone else's. You know, Bridgman also kind of slipped while he was committing inside. Maybe the wide receiver would have blocked him anyway. It gets out for 40 yards, you know, and eventually, you know, Bridgman comes out and they go in a different direction. But not pinning him on him, but when you're seeing these long runs and big plays, it's not necessarily it is correctable, but it's a lot of it is players you haven't seen a lot. But in this game, Wayne Matthews was making some mistakes also on that one drift. And there was a play when USC was coming out of their own territory early in the game, and Malik Spencer drifted too far, and they hit Lemon over the middle. I thought it was too far. Maybe it wasn't. Malik Spencer also saved a touchdown with a great hit in the end zone on their opening drive and played hard. There's no question about that. I want to find there was one other one. You know, there was with Matthews.
While you're looking that up,
Go ahead.
No, while you're looking at it, so you and I talked about offline was that how big USC is. They got some tall guys out there, man. The one kid's 6'5", the number 4, that freshman. It's got some big kids out there, man.
They've recruited a different. You know, they got some pterodactyls out there. Yeah. You know, not necessarily like big heavy guys, like just big lean strong guys. Some heavy guys too. I'm like, you're like. You look, well, that dude's 290 pounds. I'm like, he can't be 290. Look how thin he is. But no, he's 6'5" or whatever.
They got some good looking. They got some. You know, those guys look good in the uniform. That's for sure.
One thing about Matthews, I'd like to see him. A lot of times, like I think you and I were talking about Michigan State players catching a little bit. Matthews was catching offensive linemen. They were getting out on him, and it's hard for a linebacker to get off an offensive lineman, but a lot of times in some of these plays, running just 2 or 3 of them that were getting out for gains of 12, 18, 20 yards, it's like he's getting Velcro to the offensive lineman. You know, I saw Moa on a positive play where he dodges an offensive lineman. And you don't want to dodge an offensive lineman to get out of your gap, but I've seen it.
Sure.
I've seen it coached before where, well, like Mike Tressel used to coach linebackers to take on an offensive lineman with a rip move. You know, it's a rip pass rush move, but you're dodging him and you're still in your gap. You've got no hope of going chest to chest with an offensive lineman and getting off that block. I don't think. You know, they teach the hit and shed and everything, but Matthews was catching a lot. You know, last year, you know, he got a lot of tackles at Old Dominion. Last year he was second string. This year he's starting, and again I hope that he's healthy and everything. But they need better play out of there. Especially, you know, with Hall. Hall's not going to play in the first half against Nebraska. Matthews, right. I know he's been in the system for 16 games now, a year and a half, but there's a lot of areas where Michigan State's not quite up to the standard. He's got the capacity, I think, to take it up a notch and needs to. And I know he's got a lot of heart and he's going to be working at it. I guess we'll let you go. I appreciate your time. Any parting thoughts as we move toward that Nebraska game a week from Saturday?
I just think we got to win the bye week. You know what I mean? We got to win the bye week.
Last year, Michigan State went out west to Oregon and played their best game of the year after a bye week against Iowa. They caught Iowa a little bit by surprise at home. You're not catching Nebraska by surprise. They've had a bye week. They are at home. They're coming off a loss.
They're going to be cranked up. Yeah, they're going to be cranked up, and that's going to be a tough environment. It might be the toughest environment you guys play in all year.
They will get the best version of Nebraska.
For sure.
Now, Nebraska has had their own problems over the years. And if Nebraska looks like the better team, but all of a sudden Michigan State is down 3 and takes a lead with 12 minutes to go, the collar could get
seeping in, yeah.
Collar will get tight in Lincoln. But it will be a great environment. They've got great fans, great environment. That's another great flavor of college football. And Michigan State is going to try not to fall to 3-2, but at some point they've got to steal a win at Nebraska, at Iowa, at Minnesota. They're going to go out there trying to win all those games. They went to USC expecting to win. They knew it was going to be difficult, but they expected to win. But you can't win when you've got those loose screws like we talked about. Now they forced that turnover, which they punched in for a touchdown, and put themselves in position, and weren't all that far away from getting in position to make that one really interesting and possibly stealing it. And when a coach comes to the press conference the next week and says, I just talked to my team and I showed them these number of plays that we're not that far away. And it's true. They're not that far away. But there's no doubt USC had better talent. There's no doubt that's an $11 million coaching staff for the head coach that's had 4 years of development with a great recruiting base and budget. And they had some pterodactyls on the field. And Michigan State had some good players too. Frazier played well, and Chiles and some others. And I'll get into that in a moment. But Michigan State, you don't want to get into a rut where you're just good enough to lose. And if I'm Michigan State, I'm concerned about that. I think that there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. I said coming into the year, I think 15 of them are going to be solid, respectable teams. 15. It might be 16. It's 16 now when you look at Maryland.
The gap between, say, 8-4 and 4-8, man, it is not that big.
I mentioned this before. You know last year in the Big Ten, there were 9 teams that went 5-7, 6-6, or 7-5. 9. Just out of pure mathematics, it's going to be like that most years. Last year in that group included USC, Michigan, Nebraska, Washington, some big brands, Michigan State, Wisconsin. It's going to be like that every year, especially now that Indiana's good for now and Illinois is good, even though they didn't do. They're good for now, so they're up in that upper echelon. So I think there's 16 good teams in the Big Ten. I think Michigan State's one of them. I don't know about Wisconsin anymore. Maybe there's 15, but I think Maryland is a pretty good team. But all 16 cannot have winning records. It's just not mathematically possible. Right. And that's where Michigan State finds themselves. They're going to have to go and win at Minnesota or win at Iowa. It's going to be tough, but that's the litmus test. And it's getting to a bowl game used to be like, you're in a bowl game. Now in the Big Ten, if you get to a bowl game, I'm sorry, you've done something if you get to the postseason in the Big Ten.
Yeah, you earned it. Nope, that was not a free lunch. You earned that. You earned that trip. So I got to jump, man.
All right.
Before I go, I just got to say this, man. Like, we got to enjoy this, man. We wait all year for ball to start, and then we'll look up, man. It's week 5, so I'm just gonna try to enjoy football this weekend because it seems like it just goes so fast. I'm like, man, we're already in week 5. Like, man, alive, it's just going so fast. So try to enjoy some of this, Kyle.
I will, and you do it also. You enjoy it also, and we appreciate all your contributions, insight, and analysis, and intelligence, and your friendship, Ron. It's good to see you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Go green.
There he goes. Have a good weekend. There goes Big Moobie, Ron Armstrong. He's a good friend, and he posts over the Underground Bunker message board, like a lot of Michigan State fans do, and the astute Michigan State fans over at SpartanMag.com. And we'd love to invite you guys to become SpartanMag.com subscribers. Go over there at $1 for the week. Also, I'll say this about if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and you will get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using bonus code ON3. That's ON3. Bonus code ON3. BetMGM app. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. And then you'll receive up to a $1,500 in bonus. You'll up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. So make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. Go to the BetMGM app, sign up ON3, and work that bonus code. Disclaimer here now. BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Or text HOPE-NY in New York. Or call in Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Puerto Rico, call 1-800-981-0023. And we do have one or two viewers in Puerto Rico every week. It's good to hear from those people. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Also, as you know, Chupan, Michigan's recycling rate has fallen from 90% to 73% in recent years. Michiganders are squandering $105 million per year by not taking back their bottles and cans. That's hurting our environment. So help the environment, help yourself, help your beaches, help your lakes, help your roads. Take back those bottles and cans. Take them back. A message from Chupan, a great Michigan company dedicated to recycling and dedicated to your Michigan State Spartans. Let's see. We went about an hour with Big Moobie. That's longer than ever. But, kind of pressing times call for those type of things. I've got 11 or 12 questions here for the mailbag. And I don't know how quickly I can get through them. It's times like these when I'm like, should I just turn it off right now and make this, post this as an hour and 15-minute podcast, or should I just keep rolling? You guys can let me know. I don't know. I guess I'll just keep rolling. I mean, I could shut it off right now, then start a new one that is just SpartanMag Mailbag. SpartanMag Mailbag. And the other one's SpartanMag Live, even though there's no live studio audience right now. We'd love to, I'm not really sure what's the best way to do all this, but let's get into questions here, see how it goes. And the first question's a deep one, and it involves breakdowns, and we've touched on some of these things already. It's from Zodiac in San Francisco. He says, have you been able to break down the USC game film at all this week? If so, what were some of the positives that you saw, some of the negatives that you think can be fixed, and some of the negatives that you think will be lingering issues for the rest of the season? What went wrong? What's fixable? What's not? We used to have Spartan Magazine, and we'd spend all year on those things. Similar question 1A from NJ in Northville. He says, what were your thoughts about Kikai Burnett and Rustin Young against USC? Both of them flashed, in my opinion, he says. Young looked surprisingly solid, says NJ in Northville. He says, also, why do you think the run defense was so bad against USC? That was the biggest surprise in that game. Had it been an even average run defense, I think we could have had one or two more stops against them, and that was concerning. All right, so the first question was, what were some of the positives from Zodiac? Positives, Aiden Chiles, Mekhi Frazier, playing tough, playing hurt, had an impact late in the game. Omari Kelly's been really steady as a target, big play at the end of the game. Rustin Young at left tackle coming in from Stanton Ramil. Wasn't great, gave up some edges here and there, but Rustin Young is a lot better than he was 12 months ago. 12 months ago, he played against Ohio State, emergency situation, struggled. Really didn't look like he belonged on the field. But he's a true freshman, understandable. He's a lot better now. When he was second string left tackle in preseason, I was like, man, I don't know what kind of second stringer that is. Now I see him, he can function. He was going against, I think, NFL players for USC in the pass rush. And I don't think Rustin Young was outclassed. Redshirt freshman has a lot of years of development to come, and he's heading in the right direction. So Rustin Young, I agree with NJ from Northville, looked pretty good. Alex Van Zumeren, like Moobie was talking about, another strong game from him. Malik Spencer, hit. Couple of good hits. One saved a touchdown. Had that one negative where I thought he drifted too far on a third down completion over the middle early in the game. USC coming out. Kikai Burnett, talked about him a minute ago. Late in the game, looked like he belonged. Playing defensive end with Dunnigan out. He got into the rotation at defensive end. He's third string behind Dunnigan and Jalen Thompson. And Burnett did okay, showing some potential for the future. Now, going into Nebraska, will Burnett be on the field? Not necessarily, because I think Dunnigan and Thompson are pretty good, but Burnett, not a bad third stringer right there. I see a Moa. With Pretzlaff not being available due to injury, I noticed during pregame that Moa was repping as second string inside linebacker. Then Jordan Hall gets ejected. Wayne Matthews becomes injured just before halftime. Moa played the most snaps of his career. He's been a third down guy most of the season. redshirt sophomore transfer from Brigham Young. And he shows something on some of those passing downs. Hasn't made a lot of noise yet, but shows some potential there. But I like him as an inside linebacker. When he's talked about some of the things Wayne Matthews needs to get better at, dodging those blockers while remaining in your gap. Moa did that on one of his plays. What was it? I think Moa's when he blitzed, he batted down a pass. I can't remember if that's the one that got through and was completed. He came on a blitz. It's midway through the second quarter. And he's blitzing, and I can't remember if it was a rip or what, but he defeated the center. And that's a skill you need playing the run also when linemen are coming out at the second level, defeating those guys to stay in your gap. His ability to run, I think he runs better than Matthews. He runs better than Snow. He's younger. I think Moa is a guy at inside linebacker that you've got a week off now. You're getting ready to play Nebraska. You have to play the first half without Hall. I'm interested in Moa. What he might be able to come here in the middle portion of the season as his season continues and his career continues. Gavin Brocious at left guard was good in the second half, third quarter. There was one drive, one of Michigan State's touchdown drives, where Brocious had 2 or 3 really good plays. The best sequence of plays I've ever seen from Gavin Brocious. Other positives, just coming back from 31-10, cutting it to 31-24 with 10 minutes to play, showing some mettle. I mentioned this in the VCast after the game. If this had been year 2 of the Saban era, his team would have quit. We saw Saban's players quit on him at Michigan State a handful of times in situations like this. 31-10, they'd have been like, shut up, coach. I'm sick of you. I don't even like you. I'm quitting. They wouldn't physically walk off. They would lose their motivation. These guys remained motivated, fought back, and made it 31-24, 10 minutes to play with a key 4th down play with a chance to get the ball back and a chance to get the ball back down 7 with the ball, 8 minutes to go, which is, you would have taken that going into that game before the game, and you darn sure would have taken that when it was 31-10. So credit to them with some of that physical, mental mettle coming back. Some physical toughness also. In the run game, they found some success in the run game in the third quarter that led the comeback. Run defense became a little more solidified too. So there's some physicality, some mental toughness, and some physical toughness I think showed themselves. Sometimes with some second stringers, not a bad thing. Negatives that can be fixed or must be fixed. The run defense. It's not been a problem. It's been a strength. And I think they'd only given up like 3 rushes of 10 yards or more in the first 3 games. They gave up 3 in the first 2 drives last week. 10 rushes of 10 yards or more in the game. 7 rushes of 15 yards or more. Defensive tackles are fine. Dunnigan and Thompson are fine. The rush edge against the run, I'm not seeing huge problems there. But the linebacking situation in run defense is a little hit and miss. Jordan Hall does a pretty good job. Matthews has to get better. Snow is limited. Pulliam is limited, sideline to sideline speed. Moa, I think, has some potential. I liked Bridgman's potential. He made a couple mistakes we talked about. Got to keep working with those guys. Good news is you're allowed to practice. Other negatives that must be fixed, that pass defense, the loose coverage. Jonathan Smith talked about it a little bit after the Boston College game, the Youngstown State game. Loose coverage. It's got to get tightened up. We saw it in this game. Talked about it earlier with Big Moobie. Some key third down plays. One time Matthews drifting too much. Allows was that a 4th down completion? Or that was the 3rd down. And, the 4th and 3 where Josh Eaton sinks too much, in my estimation. I'm not a coach. I don't know for sure, but I don't think that's the way they want it. Got to be more combative on those type of situations. Can't keep happening. If those things keep happening, you're not going to get an upset at Iowa or Minnesota or Nebraska, and you're not going to get to 6-6 or 7-5. That pass defense needs to get better. And it's pretty good sometimes. I'm not seeing Malcolm Bell getting beat very often. I'm not seeing Josh Eaton get beat very often. I'm not seeing Ade Willie get beat very often. But some of those intermediate situations where guys are drifting too much needs to be tightened up. Pass protection needs to improve. We knew that was a question mark coming into the game, into the season. It remains scattershot against some teams. Western Michigan had a really good pass rusher, had an impact on the game. USC has a bunch of them lead the nation in sacks. Third and long was not going to be a good situation for Michigan State. We knew that going in. Rustin Young was surviving. Stanton Ramil's had some good moments and then some shaky moments. He comes out with an injury. Maybe he's been battling injury all year. Last year, who was it that battled an injury all year? Ashton Lepo. Ashton Lepo was battling an injury all year. We didn't know. And that had an impact on his play. And he missed a game. He's missed the last 2 games. They said he'd be healthy for this one. I don't know if he was. I didn't notice if he traveled or not. But sometimes guys are hurt and they don't let you know for a lot of reasons. You don't want to give the opponent, inside information on where guys are hurt and so forth. Ramil left this game. He played half of the previous game. Maybe he's battling something that's chronic for this season. I don't know. But pass protection's got to get better. Third and long was a non-starter for Michigan State in this game. They could not do anything with third and long. I kind of thought, I wrote in the pre-snap read, I thought Michigan State in third and long might try to pop off some run plays because Jonathan Smith's teams have done that in the past. They did it 3 times against Michigan last year, twice with big play success on third and long, especially a team that gets up in a 2-point stance and really sells out to brush the passer. To USC's credit, they don't have to sell out. They can get heat with 4 usually. Sometimes they'd bring 5, and they had some exotics. They've got Rex Ryan on staff for a reason. There's a Rob Ryan. Rob Ryan from the Buddy Ryan lineage. They brought some exotics. They had 1 or 2 of those in there. But if you know you don't have much of a chance to protect the passer, but Michigan State was playing from behind so much, they probably didn't feel like they could afford to run it on third and long. I don't know. Moving the pocket, I think something Michigan State can do in the future more of if pass protection remains a problem. In this game, there's that dash play, Krishan McCray, 42-yard touchdown pass. That's like a delayed sprint out. And then the 75-yarder to Amari Kelly, a lot of you have gone to bed by then, like 5 minutes ago in the game, 75-yard touchdown. That was a half roll. With the problems with the pass protection and Aiden Chiles' ability to move, and he's getting better throwing on the run, I think moving the pocket. And they move the pocket a lot with counter boot, whether they call it I don't think they call it a waggle. Some people do. But some of those drags, counter boot, over routes, and so forth. They move the pocket on that, of course, a lot. Doing that a little bit more, I'm wondering why they don't do it more often. Maybe there's a pitch count on that also. You can't be sprinting out your guy constantly. Or maybe you can, but that's something Michigan State, I think, can go to if it remains a problem. Other problems, continued problems, giving up tackles for loss in the run game. And I don't mean offensive linemen getting beat and the whole thing gets caved in. I mean just structurally, somehow they're shooting gaps and it's a loss of 3. Happened a lot last year. Might have happened once or twice in each of the last 2 games. Happened 3 or 4 times in this game. Second half, I thought I saw maybe Michigan State tightened up their splits a little bit so the offensive linemen aren't so far apart. With an outside zone scheme, sometimes you can do that, and wider splits can create a problem for a defense. But it also, if people are shooting gaps on you, it becomes a problem that way also. And I think Michigan State, among other things, might have reduced those splits a little bit. I don't know that for a fact, but it looked like they might have. It's hard to know that for sure because we only get the TV copy, and public, we don't have access to the all 22 like coaches' copies, end zone, or those things. And USC's camera angle is pretty low on the field, so you don't really get an elevated vantage point to look at the splits as well as I'd like to. So the negatives that will probably continue to linger, lack of pass rush, and we'll see about the loose coverage. It's not like last year when you had some corners that were getting hurt and you had Ade Willie playing corner and struggling and you had players just not being able to hang at the corner position. I think Michigan State's starting corners are pretty good. We didn't see Chance Rucker at all, not sure why. Didn't see Aiden West, not sure why. We did see Anthony Pinnace in a nickel package as a third corner. And I loved his junior college film. I think he's got a lot of wheels. And he had a real nice sweep tackle against Youngstown State. I'm not surprised that he is getting a little more playing time. I think he can play, he can run. He's got quick feet. Question 1C, Jackson from Kentwood, Michigan says, Jim, wondering what's your perspective on what it'll take for the defense to become functional? Is it Jimmy's and Joe's or execution or simply schematics? And how long do you anticipate it'll take before we see that consistently? A big question. I thought the defense would be better to this point. Jimmy's and Joe's, they don't have Jimmy's and Joe's like they would like in the pass rush. I don't think they have Jimmy's and Joe's like they'd like at linebacker. Usually linebacker, Pretzloff can come along. He hasn't been available the last week and a half. Jordan Hall has improved. I think Matthews is limited. I think Pulliam's limited. So you need all 11. I think Moa's got some potential, like I said earlier. But Jimmy's and Joe's is part of it. Matthews has to learn to defeat block or dodge them. You need tighter coverage from people that can do it, the plays we mentioned before. Knowledge is a factor there. Being coached, being corrected, that's part of a process, like Saban used to talk about. Making errors in practice, not games, in practice, getting corrected. The problem is now guys are making mistakes in games because they're transfers 1 year in the program. I mentioned it before. I've long time ago I covered Perlis, then covered Saban. Dean Pease coordinator. Saban was the actual coordinator. Narduzzi, D'Antonio, Tressel, good defensive coaches. And those programs were not really good on defense right away. It takes a while to get the flywheel moving. It takes a while. But like I said earlier in the podcast, in this day and age of transfer portal, are there teams out there that get it moving sooner, more immediate? I don't know. I do know that Rossi had a really good defense in 2022, an excellent defense. 2023, they lost some experience. They took a step backwards, but we'll have to wait and see. It needs to get better. And it's the nature of college football. Everybody's impatient. But I'm sure a lot of those things are not the way he's coaching it. So these guys need to carry it out. It needs to get carried out. He needs to make sure they carry it out. That's all. That's pretty much all there is to it. Question 1D, John from Grosse Pointe says, Jim, I remember the famous discussion a couple of years ago about how Minnesota was going to beat us because their defense, Rossi's defense, had its stuff together. He's talking about something I said before the Minnesota game. Michigan State went out to Washington as a top 20 team, lost to Washington. They're coming back home. And in the pre-snap read, I said Michigan State is going to have its absolute hands full against Minnesota. I don't do predictions, but I think I pretty much insinuated this is, Minnesota. I can't remember how I said it. But a lot of people on the Underground Bunker message board really came after me and yapped at me and told me I was crazy. They were mad at me because I was saying Minnesota is going to be tough to beat. This is a problem game. Minnesota won that game 31-7. Rossi's defense just shut Michigan State down. And I didn't even know who Joe Rossi was back then. I didn't know him by name. I just knew his defense was good. And then when Michigan State went out and hired him 2 years ago, I was like, oh, that guy, yeah, okay, I get it, for sure. So John is he's referring to that back in 2022. And he says, and they did have their stuff together. Why don't we have our stuff together? How long is a reasonable time for Rossi and the staff to get this defense's stuff together? And he's using stuff together. I like to use the word crap. 30 games, get your crap together, something I say in basketball a lot of times. They got to get their crap together. John from Grosse Pointe says, I'm sure there is some talent deficit, but it seems like this is wrong alignments and gap fits or discipline, or is it just being in the wrong spot? When should this be fixed? Great question, John. Fair question. It should be fixed next game. Needs to be fixed next game. Hall's not going to be out there for the first half. Pulliam is limited. I think Matthews is limited. Moa, does he get more? Your coverage has to get tighter. Gap responsibility was getting a little bit clouded against USC on a couple plays, partly because I think that backside on those counters, that was something they don't see every week in practice. They saw it 1 week for USC prep for 2 days. They had a plan for it late in the game. I mentioned Kai Burnett did a good job stacking it up on one occasion. Pulliam did it on one occasion. A couple other times they had guys getting out of their gap. We can talk about that a little bit more also. All right, I'll actually, and then Tino from Long Beach, question 2. That's what I just went through was question 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. Question 2 is similar. Tino from Long Beach, he says, is Joe Rossi's seat warming up? I know the talent is not good, but it should not look this bad. Seems like some of these guys just get so lost at times on the field. Fair point. My answer would be it needs to get better. Seat getting hot? No, not right now. But if you don't go to a bowl game this year, then next year, if you don't go to a bowl game 3 straight years, historically at Michigan State, 3 years and Michigan State moves on. So all of them know they've got to get something done this year or else next year. They know the business they're in, and everybody's in a hot seat. And the defense needs to start coming around. Now, as far as the defense goes, other elements of it, defensive tackles are looking pretty good. Defensive end looks pretty good. Safeties, by and large, are playing pretty well. Amarion Smith with a big fumble caused. Malik Spencer with a hit in the end zone. Nakai Martinez was involved in the deep one, but like we talked about earlier, it's hard to ask him to win that drag race. Boston College had a bye week last weekend, so I'd like some more information on them, exactly how good their offense is. I know they lost 30-20 at Cal at 3 a.m. Let's talk a little bit about the tackles for loss on offense, and then we'll get back to defense in a second. Tackles for loss crept up and hurt Michigan State on offense a couple of times in this game. One, when Michigan State was driving, field goal drive, when they cut it to 17-10, they had a first and goal at the 8-yard line, looking to make it 17-14. First and goal at the 8, they tried a reverse pass back to Marsh Transcontinental, and it kind of got blitzed and gummed up, incompletion. Second and goal at the 8-yard line, loss of 3, split zone. They one gap. USC is mainly a two-gapping team, but teams that two-gap and all of a sudden when they one gap, it's like you're facing a change-up pitcher, and then he sneaks the fastball by you. And these guys are excellent athletes. It's not like they need to sneak anything. But in this play, there's a bear front. We talked about in the pre-snap read that USC would play some bear front, especially in the red zone. Bear front, that means, among other things, it wasn't a complete bear front. It wasn't 4-down bear front like 85 Bears, but one of the staples of the Chicago Bears bear front from 85 was they were the first team ever to have a defensive lineman over the center and both guards. They covered all 3. Usually one of those guys is open to double team someone else. They wouldn't let you do that. It's hard to run against them. There are things you can do to try to run against them, but it's difficult. So they're in a bear front. Usually when USC would bear front, they two gap. Most teams do that in a 30 front, especially in a bear front. Now the Bears used to one gap off of all that, but on this one they showed a bear front, and instead of two gapping, they one gapped. So first, it's hard to run against a bear front. Secondly, you're expecting a two gap probably, and they one gap. They beat Brocious. I mentioned Brocious was really good in the second half on that one drive, but on this one, the defensive lineman is shaded out. He's on Brocious, but he's shaded outside. Then he one gaps to the inside, comes in, and makes tackle for loss of 3. Good play by USC. Michigan State's running a split zone. I don't know if it was wide zone or inside zone. I can't remember. I don't know if that's a play you can have a chance to get out of. I don't know if they did a certain check or if they checked to something because they saw the bear front. I don't know. But I can't say Brocious was beaten physically. They might. I don't know. I'm not really sure how they want him to go about that. I can't really speculate on that. But there's a loss of 3 back to the 11-yard line. Then on a 5-man rush, 3rd and 11, edge guys coming from both directions. This was a Rob Ryan package, and Tullis seemed confused on pass protection. Omari Kelly was coming open in the end zone, but Michigan State, unlike USC, didn't have time in the face of a 5-man rush to find that open man. Got rid of it, field goal 17-10. Lost an opportunity to cut it to 17-14. In a game like this, the way USC was moving on offense, you're going to need 40 points to win this game. I understand why they kicked a field goal on 4th and goal from the 11, but you can't give up 3 yards on 2nd and goal at the 8. And it's a recurring problem with those tackles for loss. Now, good run plays in the second half, well, in the second quarter during the field goal drive. 2nd and 2, Mekhi Frazier, gain of 15, inside zone right, cut back left versus one deep. Pretty good drive block by Rustin Young on that one on the left side. Jack Velling also got a piece of his guy. But Frazier, what he does best, zone, vision, cut back. Color commentator did a good job pointing that out. That's what Frazier does well, and you need that in a zone game. Second half, touchdown drive, 1st and 10. Second drive of the second half, gain of 7. Frazier, inside zone. Gulbin with a really good block. 2nd and 3, inside zone. The double team of Brocious and Rustin Young got really good movement. Rustin Young, solid. Brocious, good second half. Same drive, 1st and 10. Frazier, gain of 12. Split zone. So it's zone blocking. It was like zone blocking this way, all 5 offensive linemen this way, and the H-back comes back this way. That makes it a split zone. And I suspect that was an adjustment at halftime to put some more split zone in that, because if someone's penetrating, if they surprise you with the one gap, that split zone blocker can take care of that. I'm guessing that was the adjustment there for any penetrators. Frazier, gain of 12. Brocious, another good block. Help from Gulbin. Then Gulbin turned and did a good job blocking a pursuit linebacker. Had not seen that play in this game yet. Gained 12. Moments later, Frazier, gain of 15. Inside zone right. On this one, that's what I was thinking. They might have been in tighter splits on that one. And he cuts behind Rustin Young, who was washing his guy out to the left. Good vision on Frazier. Gain of 15. Touchdown, 1st and goal. Chiles, design keeper, outside zone to the Brocious Young side. So they saw something over there on that left side of the Brocious and Young. Brocious got into his guy, pancaked him. Like I said, that cuts it to 31-17. That was the best sequence I've ever seen from Brocious. He can build on that. Now, USC had 2 sacks. I don't remember what the second one was. They had 6 quarterback hits. The 1 sack, 3rd and 9, scores 10-7. Third down was bad for Michigan State all game. Own 43-yard line. Second quarter. 4-man rush. I penciled it in as a coverage sack. He looked at a couple places. Did not make the mistake. Didn't take off too early. Coverage sack. Also, there were a couple times in this game when there was some pressure and Chiles stepped up and tucked and ran, or stepped up and threw a little bit. He didn't step back. Because there are times earlier in the season where there's a little bit of pressure, he would step back and get sacked because the offensive tackle was moving his guy out in that direction. But he no longer kept going, climbing backward in the pocket, which takes a lot of nerve to come forward. But it's making progress with that. As far as the problems in the run defense, let's look under the hood on that one. This is normally where I take another commercial, right? Well, where are we at? Wait a minute. Hey, while we're at it, let's talk about Roback. Real quickly, we'll do this because this is good stuff, and we'll talk about run defense in a second. A message from Roback Activewear sponsor, SpartanMag.com and the On3 Network. There's only one way to describe Roback, and these are some of the activewear you're seeing behind us, the Michigan State line. One way to describe Roback. Actually, 2 ways. Best fit, best feel. For those of you that are not familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has released some great new licensed items within the Roback Game Day selection. There are new novel polo designs and clean hoodie and Q-zip designs from some of your favorite schools, including Michigan State University. And it's definitely worth checking out. So nobody else in the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Not just hoodies and quarter zips. Check out the everyday shorts and Delta Performance pants. Super comfortable, elastic waistband, and great fabric. Roback. It's the best. We got a promotional code. Use code MSU20. MSU20 on Roback for 20% off for all new customers. That's spelled Roback, R-H-O, back, R-H-O-B-A-C-K. Roback. That's 20% off on all performance polos, shorts, and more. Promotional code MSU20. Thanks to Roback for that. Let's take a little closer look at defense. Defense. Problem. USC, very good offense. First drive, that counter, Sanders against two deep, gain of 18. I don't have the what went wrong on that one. The next one, gain of 18. Right guard, right tackle pulling. Wayne Matthews got cut off by pulling center. Hall got cut off by wide receiver crack block. Ade Willie let him get to the outside. Willie was trying to fight off a wide receiver block, had to come inside to evade that block, but left too much room to the outside. Running back got outside, gain of 18. Overall, USC, good wide receiver blocking on that one. Second drive, Snow replaced Willie. Michigan State tried to be a little bit better in the run defense. Darius Snow played more. He's not as fast, but a little bit more physical. Mixed bag on that one. Second drive of the game, first play of the drive, gain of 12, counter again. Right guard, right tackle pull against two deep. And they truck it out there for a gain of 12. Gain of 16, outside zone. Jordan Hall, good player on this one, false step. USC's already been running the ball a little bit, overreacted a little bit. Hall has the A gap. Running back cuts into the A gap on outside zone. Hall gets influenced by misdirection play fake. They've got two running backs in the backfield. Gets influenced, flows with the fake, steps out of his gap, and vacates it. Then tries to catch up. By that time, the right guard's coming out and sealing him out of his gap. See, Hall on that one just needs to trust that number 41, Santiago, the play side edge, is going to handle that run fake. Don't try to do someone else's job. He's a good kid trying to do a lot. Went out here. There's a run fake this way. He's out of his gap, blocked. Gain of 16. That's gap integrity. That's gap assignments. We talk about assignment errors. And I'm Michigan State's one gapping on this one, and I'm looking at gap assignments. I'm not in the film room, but I'm pretty sure that was Hall's gap, was that A gap, and he got out of it. It was a false step. 3rd and 1 in the red zone, gain of 16-yard touchdown, quarterback, Reed, keeper, outside of Snow. Michigan State run blitz inside, man-to-man in the back. Michigan State has nobody home for a scrape replace on Snow. So Michigan State's getting gutted by the counters and the inside runs and those type of things, and they run blitz inside. That made them susceptible, as Lincoln Riley knew, for quarterback keeper. Walks in 16 yards. Fourth drive, this is the drive before halftime. First play of the drive, P and 10. D'Antonio used to call it P and 10, first play of a drive. Gain of 35 on an inside zone. First play of the drive for USC all night was they were nails. They were tough on the first play of the drive. Inside zone, it's split zone. Ben Roberts, who's having a pretty good season, pretty good defensive tackle, on this particular play, got moved off the line of scrimmage by a yard, maybe a yard and a foot, maybe a yard and a half by USC's right guard. I told you in the pre-snap read that USC's right guard was their best offensive lineman. He's a good one. And Roberts is pretty good, but on this play, he got moved off the line of scrimmage. So there's a breach in the defensive front. On that particular play, Roberts lost. Roberts a good player, didn't have a bad game, but on this play, got displacement. And overall, teammate gap integrity was a little sloppy on this play. It looked like Roberts was supposed to have the B gap. He gets moved back, disengages. He's got the B gap, and he's getting moved back, and he disengages to the A gap to try to undercut it, but now he's out of his gap. So no one's in the B gap. Armstrong Smith is up in the box because they're playing a 7-man front, which is a heavy front against 6 blockers, 7 gaps, 3 wide receiver formation. 7 is like extra man in the box to try to stop the run. So Michigan State's getting aggressive to stop the run. But Armorian, they don't get it stopped. And once it gets past the linebacker level, there's only one safety back there, so it gains 35. And so Roberts gets beat and tries to make up for it and gets out of his gap. And the safety, he didn't make a mistake, but when you're up there and it gets out, it's out. Wayne Matthews was catching a little bit at linebacker. Talked about that earlier. The hit and shed is not really working for him right now. 1st and 10, minute 48 left in the half, counter. Matthews catching a pull blocker and gets swept downstream, gain of 9. We talked about later in the second half, there was one play where Pulliam was taking on that pull blocker and took it on a little more forcefully. So if you're a plus linebacker, if you can take on a pulling offensive lineman and not give any ground, that's hard to do. Tough job. Need some Big Ten size and speed there to get that done. 2nd and 1, gain of 25. Minute 26 left in the first half. 2nd and 1 at the 44-yard line. Michigan State's at nickel. Pinnace is on the field. Talked about that grouping before. Pinnace, junior college transfer, former quarterback, Ann Arbor Huron High School. Went to JUCO, became a corner, became a junior college All-American, transferred to Texas San Antonio in the spring, then to Michigan State. Quick feet. I love his JUCO film. He's been a little bit slow to get on the field, has a lot to learn, but he's starting to creep into the playing group a little bit more. So he's on the field with 3 corners, a different look for the nickel for Michigan State. They've got like Willie is their base starter in the nickel. Snow is their nickel if they want to go heavier against the run. Pinace for this game was the nickel if they want like 3 legit corners on the field. So they have 3 corners on the field. They have 6 in the box against 5 blockers. So Michigan State's outnumbering the box, and they've got pass defense personnel. And it's 2nd and 1, though. So I'm not really sure why they would have Pinace on the field on 2nd and 1. Pretty sure I've got that right. It's 1:26 left, 2-minute drill maybe. But they run the ball. Maybe they, because Pinace is not playing zone. He's up there playing press in the slot. And he's playing on Lemon a little bit too, because Lemon, there's not many guys on Michigan State's roster that can run with Lemon, and Pinace just for a couple of plays matched up with him. But they didn't throw it here. They ran it. They ran inside zone left. Jalen Thompson had a good game, but on this play, not really one-gapping it. He wasn't totally two-gapping it either. He was heavy to his gap, but a little too heavy and not enough into his gap. And the run play goes through his gap. But it would have been nice if Matthews had done a better job of the hit and shed on the offensive lineman and gotten to the boundary to limit the gain. But the combination of Thompson playing a little too heavy and not into his gap, and Matthews not hitting and shedding and running the alley, getting to the alley, it turns the corner to the short side. Michigan State had Enelu Lafayette and the nickel passing personnel on the field 1 deep. And Matthews lets the left guard cross his face. So he crosses his face to keep him out of his gap a little bit, makes it harder to get to his gap. So Matthews is not defeating that block. Gain of 25. Running play that was against the pass personnel package. And within that pass personnel package, you have Thompson and Matthews not having their best play on that particular play. Gets out for 25. We're looking at what went wrong on these catastrophic runs. Are these correctable? Matthews has got to come along. Ben Roberts, I think that was a one-off on that gain of 35. Jordan Hall, false step, gain of 16, correctable. There's a lot of them. Gain of 16, 1st and 10 at 24-yard line. This is all in the first half. Speed option, weak side, defense beefed up to the strong side, and they go option weak. So defense, USC's in your head. You got to stop the run. You got to fortify more to what they do, and they just go off. They run the other side of the tangent. Speed option, gain of 16. Dunnigan was too tight, loses contain. Snow, not enough speed to get over the top and correct it. Defense is 1 deep, so once it breaks the linebacker level, it's out the gate. That was a play where Dunnigan and Nakai Martinez both ended up getting hurt on the same play, collision with one another. Gain of 16. All right, second half, not as much damage. But the first play of the second half, PN10, once again, USC damage on the first play of a drive. Gain of 40. Once again, counter. Talked about this earlier with Big Moob. Bridgman starts the second half because you don't have Hall, you don't have Matthews. And Bridgman's out there and wanting to do too much, cuts it in too thin, trying to make a play, loses containment, gets outside, gain of 40. Bridgman kind of slips, but did it while committing inside. Wide receiver might have blocked him anyway, but Bridgman didn't play a whole lot after that. But we mentioned run defense was improving. Then in the second half, let me see if I can find this. What were So USC with gains of running plays. I'm looking at USC's running plays of 10 yards or more. First quarter, second quarter. Well, they only had 3 in the second half. That 40-yarder on the first play of the second half, Bridgman came in a little bit too tight. After that, they had a 13-yarder late in the third quarter. And that was the scramble. The blitz had him dead to right, scrambles for 13 yards. I got to send him a text. And then the other one, 11-yarder, third quarter, 40 seconds to go. Wayman Jordan, rush up the middle, gain of 11. So second half, Michigan State only gave up one carry for 10 yards or more to a running back. And that went for 11 yards. The only other damaging run was the quarterback keeper. So run defense improved in the second half. We mentioned that earlier, late in the game, Pulliam and Kekai Burnett and Van Sumeren having something to do with that. So that's looking under the hood to some of those things. Guys trying to do other people's jobs here and there. False step, Hall. But at that linebacker position, Snow and Matthews are limited. They're just limited. Jordan Turner last year, inside linebacker, was a good, solid, I thought, plus college football player. They need a Jordan Turner. If you had Jordan Turner and Jordan Hall as your two inside linebackers right now, I think things could look a lot more positive in there. They recruited Pretzlaff, bringing him along. Pulliam, I said last year, showed some pop in mop-up situations. Wasn't sure about his speed. We heard in the spring that he improved his speed. I mentioned that here. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but that's what they said. Now we see it in the fall, and it's just hard for someone to improve their speed. Darius Snow used to have a lot of good speed. Bless his heart, he's had problems with injuries and so forth. He's contemplated retirement in the past. He's given it everything he's got. He's got about 3 or 4 degrees. Great student, great team player. The wheels are what they are, but they don't want to get rid of him. Of course you don't want to get rid of them. They're glad they have him. But inside linebacker, we heard that there was some depth there. That might have been too rosy of. They have some players there with some experience, but they need another 1 or 2 Jordan Turners is what they needed. All right. All right, question number 3. Matt from Hudson, Michigan. He says, is the Board of Trustees even worse without Joel Ferguson? How is that possible? That's not very nice. I'll tell you what, Joel was controversial, tried to make things happen. One guy who likes Joel Ferguson and liked him was Tom Izzo. So you can do with that what you want. Anyway, as far as Board of Trustees, I'm not aware of any current problems. I don't know what he's talking about. Question 4. Adam in Grand Rapids says, if Michigan State were to win 5 or 6 games this season, do you think they would be able to keep Aiden Chiles and Nick Marsh from transferring if they win 5 or 6 games? There will be heavy interest in Marsh. There was last year. He wasn't even in the portal. His people heard about money that was out there. I think Chiles, he's committed to the program, and the program's committed to him. I think he's happy with his development. I don't see Chiles going anywhere. Question number 5, Kevin in Riverview. Are you hearing anything about Michigan State's NIL fundraising improving under the new AD? No, I know they want to be aggressive in general fundraising from donors and so forth. And they want to be aggressive with local and regional advertisers to support players, but they're not looking for those. I don't think they're looking for those sugar daddy NIL deals that other programs are getting, because those are supposed to be against the rules with the new clearinghouse guidelines. And JBAT was on that committee that set forth these guidelines. Deloitte is overseeing them. And so, I keep getting asked this question. I mentioned on the bunker. People at Michigan State can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my estimation, for instance, locally, the Bryce Underwood deal, reportedly $10 million, 3 years, whatever it is. I suspect that would not pass specifications with the new guardrail rules. But if you tried, what are you going to do? Tell them you can't accept that money? You got to give the money back? And that would lose in court. The NCAA would lose in court. Underwood would win. So these rules are cute and everything, and Michigan State is following the rules, and some other programs on the country that are involved in pledging allegiance to the rules, but some programs are not. I don't know where it's going to end up. But as of right now, NIL plan, I'm sure there's something in place at the high donor level, but you're a fan. They've reached out to fans in some avenues of gifting, but I'm not exactly sure what that is right now. But there's no like collective, Spartan Dogs for Life, not around anymore. This is Sparta. Did a great job with a lot of, especially Olympic athletes, but Michigan State has distanced themselves from those type of collectives. So no, I've not heard much. I'm not really sure where it's going to go, and it's a fluid situation. I'm not sure what the strategy needs to be 3 years from now, or what it is right now. I'll keep my ear to the ground on that. Question number 6, Josh from Plymouth Canton says, is a bowl game versus a group of 5 school, does that still have the same effect as a bowl game versus another Power 4 program in terms of program momentum and recruiting wise? No, if you play a group of 5 team in a bowl game, it does not have the same impact as playing a Power 4 team, and it never has. And it never will, I don't think. It's not quite the same. If you go to the Detroit Bowl, for instance, you're probably going to have to play a MAC team because the contract is Big Ten against MAC. I know Pittsburgh and Syracuse have played in it in recent years. It's because the Big Ten didn't have enough teams to fill their allotment. But you're better off, that Detroit Bowl, going back a few years earlier, the ACC was part of it, and Pittsburgh played, Pittsburgh played Toledo in the Quick Lane Bowl 2 years ago. Back in 2018, Minnesota played Georgia Tech. 2016, Maryland played Boston College. 2014, Rutgers played North Carolina. But the ACC is no longer involved with the Detroit Bowl. It's called the Game of Bove Bowl now. It's not the Quick Lane Bowl anymore. So if Michigan State's like 6-6, 7-5, they're going to be slotted at that bowl game because ESPN's going to want them there because ESPN owns that bowl. They're going to sell some tickets. So, and you'll be playing a MAC team. So no, it's better to play a Power 4 team. There's no way around that. There are some positives playing a bowl game in Detroit. It'd be easier on my travel budget. But if Michigan State will have already played Maryland Thanksgiving weekend, that would take a little bit of buzz out of it, or would there be some carryover? I don't know. But this program needs to get to a bowl game. However, bowl game is kind of one of the barometric readings. But in some regards, you're better off not playing in a bowl game. It gives you a head start into the portal, believe it or not. But does it hurt the perception of the program if you're not in the postseason 2 straight years? Yes. So it's going to be tough to get there. Question 6, Randy from Tustin, California. Do you agree with putting guys on the field, going deep into the depth chart, as it seems to have been happening, he says? Is it giving more players experience for down the road, or has it hurt the first and second string? Is this good or bad? That's Randy from Tustin, California. In the Youngstown State game, I thought it hurt the defense, but I understood the long game. You had some guys that were dinged up a little bit. You thought you were in control of the game. You made some mistakes. You get a chance to correct some mistakes. It's part of the long game. I understand that. This game against USC, I don't think it was depth players that were making the big mistakes. That counter was getting out. We talked about, some plays. We just went over all the plays, and it involved some starters too. So I don't think it had an impact in this game in terms of going deeper into the bench. There was the one when Nikai Martinez was beaten by Lemon for 40 yards, and he went around. He didn't get a reroute help from Bridgman on that play. Bridgman is like second or third stringer. If that's Snow, does Snow get a reroute? Or I assume they teach the reroute. Tucker's defense, they did not. Hazelton didn't teach the reroute in zone defense. And I know some people that were involved in the coaching staff there that were surprised. Wasn't their defense. Not much they can do. Hazelton. Anyway, so there's a couple of second stringers that made some mistakes. Everybody made mistakes, but the defense got better later in the game, which was, I don't know if USC took the foot off the throttle a little bit, but credit Michigan State for hanging in there and playing more correct later in the game. As far as Depth players, I think Amarion Smith is doing a decent job coming off the bench now. I thought we'd see Aiden West more. I'm not sure why we didn't see him. We saw Pinace, like I said. Mostly the corners are staying out there most of the game. And we talked about Pulliam and Moa, I think has some potential. Raphael, I have to learn how to pronounce that correctly. Moa, they show some potential. Pulliam, the speed's a question. Question 8, actually. JMO in Denver. He says, Jim, which position groups do you think will be open competitions with reps being split between multiple players coming out of the bye week or going into the bye week? Position groups. Competitions at this stage in the season. Interesting. All right, let's go through the positions. Quarterback, it's set. Running back is set. Wide receiver is set. Tight end is set. Parachek made a good block in this game at one point. What was it? See if I can find it. It was a Tullis run, gain of 8 on 2nd and 11. Inside zone. Parachek, it was a split zone play, so he blocks the defensive end. Heavy contact, sprang him. And it's the best block I've ever seen for Parachek. So there's that. But tight end, Velling had a good game against Youngstown State. Didn't have much of an impact on this game. Had the block for the one touchdown I mentioned. Meanwhile, Masunas plays well. I think Masunas is the best NFL prospect at the tight end position on the roster. Well, Savory maybe down the road, but Masunas among the players getting a lot of playing time in the playing group. Left tackle, Ramil, if he's healthy. Rustin Young, I think that's a competition now. Left guard, this game, they started Caleb Carter at left guard, started Christian Phillips at right guard. Brocious was better than both of them. I think next game, just guessing, I think Brocious starts at left guard and Carter starts at right guard. So I think Brocious gets in the starting lineup. Gets back in the starting lineup. Left tackle, Rustin Young, maybe, I don't know. But that's competition. On defense, defensive tackles set with Van Sumeren and Roberts. They're both playing pretty well. Defensive end, either way, Jalen Thompson, Quindarius Dunnigan, pretty solid. At the edge position, still not much productivity. Isaac Smith had a decent play against Texas Tech. You don't see him getting dominated and blown off the line of scrimmage or making mistakes, but you're not seeing a lot of productivity there either. Cam Williams comes in the game pretty quickly. Made a play in this game. He's limited. Santiago looks okay to me. Raphael is the third down guy. It's a committee there. None of them are really springing. Is there a chance that someone else could start instead of Isaac Smith? I think that competition continues, but Smith's been starting. Competition at linebacker with Hall having to sit out at the beginning of the first half against Nebraska. Who do you start at inside linebacker? Is it Pulliam and Matthews? Is it Pretzlaff and Matthews? Is it Moa and Matthews? All good questions. But that'll be a competition right there to see who starts with Matthews. And inside linebacker, I thought was a strength. Jordan Hall's a pretty good player. Overall, not a strength. Can it become one? Maybe. Maybe I'm wrong about that. If people think I'm wrong, let me know. Safety position, Nakai Martinez, Malik Spencer, pretty set there. At corner, Josh Eaton and Malcolm Bell set there. Competition for the first corner off the bench. It had been Aiden West. This week it was Anthony Pinace. Nickelback, Ade Willie's doing pretty fine there. Darius Snow, if they want to go heavier against the run, mixed bag there. Jeremiah Hughes comes in and relieves him a little bit. All right, Samaj Bridgman, I was expecting a little bit more. He's got some ability to run and so forth, but there were a couple of mistakes there that he needs to straighten out. Question 8, Rocco from Chicago says, Indiana got good by bringing in a ton of veteran dudes off a really good mid-major roster at James Madison last season and parlayed that into success. Is it fair to question why Smith could not pull more talent from the top of the Oregon State roster to come with him? I understand that on average the Oregon State roster has more NFL opportunities and P5 offers than those James Madison guys had, but otherwise I am having a hard time comparing Cignetti's Big Ten record to date with Smith without looking at their initial roster foundation. MSU probably had more NIL money in Indiana than Indiana did at the time, or at least comparable. All right, good question. Moobie and I talked about this earlier in the podcast. Like I said, Indiana's the gold standard right now on turnaround, immediate impact success. And they're the gold standard, and you're not going to see many teams doing it like that, especially a bottom rung Power 4 team, which is what Indiana's been. So it's one of the great immediate rebuild jobs in college football history. So if you want to compare yourself to one of the great rebuilds in college football history, it's going to be hard to meet that standard. Indiana was good last year, and I did a deep dive last year into who their players were, where they came from, and a lot of them came from James Madison, including an NFL pass rusher, NFL wide receiver, good inside linebacker, and sprinkling of good players everywhere elsewhere, and had a good corner coming back that they inherited, good offensive line that they inherited, which was the big key. And they went and got the best quarterback in the MAC for 1 year. Then this year they went and got maybe the best quarterback in the portal out of California, Mendoza, future NFL guy. So they've done a good job of evaluation, and they're spending more money. So good for them on that. We'll see how they do next year. But they've done a great job, no question. Michigan State did what they could for a slow, strong build. I don't think they really expected to be compared to Indiana at this point. So that's a comparison that every program in the country is going to be looking up to. I mean, A&M in year 2 with Elko, they had a lot more talent when he took over than Michigan State did. Michigan State had some decent talent when Smith took over, but then a lot of them left. You'll recall they didn't have a quarterback on the roster when they took over. And then they lost their best defensive end, really good defensive tackle, a first-round draft pick defensive tackle, and an offensive lineman after spring practice. That's when Michigan State's NIL situation was really out of whack. So, obviously, it's not an immediate fix. It's been a longer-term thing. And I thought that there was some encouraging progress being made. And each one of these games is it's like a referendum. It's like a final exam, and you find out where you are. And the next one's against Nebraska, and Michigan State's going to be an underdog. So if you're worried about comparing yourself to Indiana, there's a lot of programs that can compare themselves to Indiana and wonder why they are not the same, including Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. I don't know about Washington. We'll see how they do this week. Illinois is a pretty good team last year. Beat South Carolina in a bowl game, preseason top 10. They're wondering why they're not as good as Indiana. There's a lot of teams out there going to be wondering why they're not as good as Indiana. Kentucky, Arkansas, probably South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Virginia, all of the ACC except for probably Florida State and Miami this year. Last year, Florida State would look at themselves and look at Indiana. Why aren't we as good as Indiana? UCLA, of course. Where's Indiana ranked? 15 in the country? Basically, there's 90 teams in the country. Why aren't we as good as Indiana? So, misery hates company sometimes. Question 9. Bruce in Rockford, Michigan. He says, I don't hear anything about Wyatt Hook, Derek Simmons, Mike Shunbeeler, Damari Malone, Braylon Collier. Are these guys hurt, still learning, or not ready to play? That's from Bruce in Rockford. I agree. Wyatt Hook, I thought had really good hands, 6'6", athlete. I loved his high school film. I've not seen him on the field yet. He might have played 1 or 2 snaps against Prairie View last year. Had some injuries last year, but I've not heard anything about him. I'll see what we can find out at some point. But Savory has passed him. But Savory is good, made a great catch against Youngstown State. But Michigan State's not really in the habit of playing more than 3 tight ends. So playing a 5th, not really happening right now. Derek Simmons has played a little bit this year, looks pretty good. But you're in a situation now where you might be able to redshirt him. Mike Shunbeeler, I'm a little surprised. We haven't seen him. Heard a lot of good things about him when he was younger. Haven't seen him. Not sure why. I think he did have some injury situations during training camp. Damari Malone, true freshman. Be patient. Braylon Collier, hearing good things about him. True freshman. Wide receiver situation is fine. Be patient. Question 10. Sparty from Pawleys Island, South Carolina says, hey, Jim, on the basketball front, Izzo mentioned Caleb Green is recovering at an amazing pace. Any chance he could see some action this year? I don't think so. I saw him in practice 2 days ago, and he's not participating in practice. He's doing free throws, but he doesn't have an immobile. He has no signs of any lower body injury. I'm not a doctor. I wouldn't doubt that they could get him ready maybe by February. Some people might email me and tell me I'm crazy, but I don't think they would do that. Not to him or to the playing group. They're trying to get the current playing group together, be cohesive, go to battle with those guys. Not bring in somebody. Because if you bring him in, he's not going to be a real good version of himself for a long time. And you're just losing his year of eligibility. So put him on the shelf. It's the best thing for him. Might be the best thing for the team, too. Get him next year. Might be probably the best thing for the program also. Also, Sparty's Island, Sparty from Paulie's Island, South Carolina says, hey, Oakland. Also, I had a thought that Michigan State, Oakland University, University of Detroit, and Western Michigan could and should have a preseason tournament at LCA and rotate each year like the Champions Classic. Maybe at Eastern Michigan occasionally. In years when Michigan State plays Oakland, that's no change. In other years, Oakland plays Michigan State at the Breslin. Separate years as well. No Michigan or Central Michigan invitations, of course. This would help out Campy, Monty, Stevens, and Michigan State, and bring the in-state universities and bring money downtown. Any thoughts? No. Financially, Michigan State would not want to play 2 games down there because that's another game that they're not playing at Breslin, and they make more money in a game at Breslin. I know they used to have the Coca-Cola Classic at Breslin, nice little tournament. That would be fun down there to have a 2-day tournament. Are you talking about for one game or like the Champions Classic, just a one-off showcase? You're calling it a tournament. It'd be fun, but financially, I don't think it makes sense because you're taking away Breslin tickets. And if you played a tournament, so you're playing at Little Caesars Arena back-to-back nights, it's hard to find back-to-back nights in which that place is available. Secondly, you have to pay to utilize it. I know it's Oakland's home game last year, so they paid for it. But if you go back-to-back nights, the chances of having a big crowd both nights is probably low. Maybe you're thinking that because it's in-state opponents, they would bring fans, but those programs really don't bring many fans. So financially, no. Question 11, Bob in Traverse City. He says the offense looks so improved from a year ago, mainly due to the portal additions and Chiles improving. The defense, however, made fewer portal moves and got less quality players than we did on offense in the portal, and it shows. Did we spend all of our money on offense this offseason? Did we miss our plan A's on defense in the portal, or did we think we had the guys in the building defensively? All right, part of what you said is not true. Michigan State brought in 21 transfers. 12 were on defense. So they brought in more on defense than on offense. Offense, you got 5 starters. Defense, 3 starters. The offensive starters, Connor Moore's doing pretty good. Gulbin's doing well. Caleb Carter's doing okay. 3 starters on the offensive line. Krishan McCray's doing well in the slot. Omari Kelly's doing well. On defense, Isaac Smith at the edge. Like I said, he had a couple of good bowl games at Texas Tech. Been up and down, had some injuries. He's just kind of been a guy, right? Josh Eaton and Malcolm Bell become starters at corner. I think they're pretty happy with them. Grady Kelly coming off the bench, solid. Raphael, good future. Santiago is all right. Moa, good future. Some of the others, Cromwell plays a little bit. Cam Williams plays a little bit. Tracy Revels, safety from Bowling Green, not playing. Future guy, sophomore. Nijay Burt, corner, Eastern Illinois, not playing. But the other two, they recruited a competition at corner. Eaton and Bell won. The guy I'm surprised I haven't seen is Dontavius Nash, defensive back from East Carolina. I thought that his film looked really good. I'll have to ask around to see what's going on with him. But I'm a little surprised he didn't get into the playing group. I haven't seen him at all. I'm not sure if he's hurt or what. But to your point, they needed a pass rusher. Pass rushers, the type of pass rushers that can make a difference, would have been a cool $1 million. That would have helped. Did they think they were one player away from really making a jump? Maybe not. So they get Isaac Smith, Cam Williams, and Lafayette Santiago. So it's kind of a committee of edge rushers. So they will develop Santiago and Lafayette. If they become like a good 7-5, 8-4 team, and they think one pass rusher can help them become a college football playoff team, then they'll pay that $1 million. I'm pretty confident. But to your point, Michigan State, I think, probably paid more for Connor Moore than anyone on defense. Needed more help on that offensive line. But that's part of the Moneyball nature of college football. Where are you going to allocate your resources? And Michigan State on defense, I thought they were going to be pretty good on defense this year, and they still might. But they got to keep tightening up the gap responsibilities and those coverage drifts. You're not seeing guys getting boat raced. Nikai Martinez against Lemon. Lemon can fly. Would like to see a reroute there. I'm not sure Spencer was supposed to come up and bracket the tight end. Maybe he's supposed to get deep and help. Nikai Martinez, pretty good college safety, but he's not going to run with Lemon with all that green space. Other than that, you're not really... They were running for good figures on the counter, getting people. A lot of that was structural. I don't think anyone was getting just blown off the line of scrimmage. So that means some of it is correctable to a point. Shalik Calhoun's not walking through that door. The pass rush is not going to be great. But if you can get everybody sound and on the same page and playing with the tenacity and physicality they showed late in the game and just be correct, they can be functional good on defense. And with that offense, maybe you can beat Iowa. Maybe you can beat Minnesota. And that's what they have to strive for. We're going to run now. My voice has expired. I want everybody to have a great bye week. For those of you that celebrate bye week, I hope everybody's good. And SpartanMag Live, VCast will be back next week as we cover Michigan State. Thanks. Take care of everybody. And we'll see you next time. Thanks to Big Moobie for hanging with us and being a part of SpartanMag Live. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.